am Grant Gustin.
Hi, it's Candace Patton.
I'm Danielle.
I'm Tom Cavanaugh.
Hi, I'm Victor Garber.
Hi, this is Wentworth Miller.
Hi, I'm Javicia Leslie.
Hi, I'm Eric Wallace.
This is Sterling Gates.
Hi, I'm Mark Wade.
Hi, this is Greg Weissman.
You're listening to the Flash Podcast.
You are listening to the Flash Podcast. It's awesome, awesome, awesome.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Flash Podcast. I just realized I'm going to need a new intro because the show basically the show is over. This podcast is about the Flash TV show that aired on the CW, starring Grant Gustin as Baron, but all about all things DC and much more. I'm your host, Andy B, as always, and for this episode, for our first episode back since the series finale of the Flash TV show, we took a little bit of a break because you know your boy Andy has been working for the last 10 years, so it was just exactly it was deserved. The thing is, like, we're still figuring out the format for the future of the podcast, but I'm too stubborn to let this end. So, like, needless to say, we'll be continuing. Toddy, Breeze, and Lady are not here today. They're all still on their break, but I'm joined by two very special guests. So a few weeks ago, I was on. Oh, not a few weeks, almost a month ago, I was on one of my new favorite podcasts, Super Stuff You Should Know All About. Should know about. Why am I saying all about? Sorry. I know the name of the show, I promise. I promise. See, I haven't podcasted for weeks now, so that's why. But Superhero Stuff You Should Know, where we talked about Greg Berlanti's Flash movie script before Greg Berlanti became the master producer that he is now, and he created the Arrowverse and whatnot. He did Green Lantern. We don't talk about that. But he also did a script for the Flash movie, which we talked about on their show. And there's a lot of things that ended up on the Arrowverse show, actually, that, it's almost like Greg Berlanti had this plan all along. Maybe that was his agenda when he came to the scene. It was like, I'm just going to use Green Arrow as a Trojan horse. And inside of it is going to be the Flash. It's my honor to welcome Ben and Andrew from Super Stuff You Should Know About. Guys, welcome to the Flash Podcast. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's there's a lot to talk about with this movie. A lot.
Yep.
And we've already recorded our stuff. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, no, I'm excited for this crossover. Yeah, we had a great chat about the movie script, which there's a lot of things that I loved about it also, but then it's like there were crazier things. Again, instead of a Harrison Wells, they just straight up went for like an Eobard Fund in a wheelchair. So you gotta applaud Berlanti for sticking to his gun. Yeah. So usually this is the part where we do a news segment, but the show is over. But however, we do have news on the Flash home media release for season 9, and also the complete series box with the most horrendous poster they could have used. It will be dropping on August 29th, and all for the complete series box, it has all 184 episodes, and then of course there will be the season 9 Blu-ray, which arguably went with a better poster. But again, I was hoping for something more special for like the complete series, like something that doesn't have like freaking Cecile just like
Cecile's
glaring at it. Yeah, she's on it.
She front and center.
How did you know? Jesus Christ.
Just a guess of how I saw last season. I was like, oh man.
Yeah,
I don't remember her being this prominent.
I'm sorry, but yeah, this is what it looks like.
Oh my gosh, wow. She is. That was just a joke.
She's literally right above the title. Yeah, it's
wow.
Like what's so funny. What's so funny is that Caitlin Snow doesn't even get to be on the poster, who's been there for all 9 seasons.
Yeah, but at least Danielle gets to be on there.
Yeah, she gets to be on that. Although that character is dead, so
yeah. I mean, did we really need to have Cecile, Juster, and Allegra on here when we could have had I feel like you should put everybody who's in the entire series. So like put Tom on here.
Tom, that's beyond me. That's beyond me. Like that Tom wasn't on it, and like also Bear just looks so Angsty.
This episode will not
complete
watch.
series on Blu-ray.
You
Yeah,
have
there's
failed the city.
and there. You know what? It is kind of giving those vibes. And then we have the one for the ninth and final season.
That is a better one, though.
Here you go, Andrew. Here is Chill Blaine.
Great.
Yeah,
The smallest person on the screen.
exactly. Yeah,
That's
it's not.
appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know. I very so much so. But yeah, it will be coming on August 29th. So look forward to that for anyone who wants to collect it. All season 9 is on Blu-ray on Netflix right now. So if you want to rewatch the final season, you already can. But gentlemen, before we get to our main topic of discussion, I would love for you guys to talk about your podcast. If people have foolishly not heard about this podcast. Then give them a little introduction to what you guys do on your show, and anything else you want to share about it.
Sure. I mean, Andrew, do you want to start since you're the founder of our show?
Okay. So it started out as a Superhouse podcast, and we were literally a bunch of college friends that would review mostly comic book movies. And then people, lives happened and people just couldn't make time for the podcast, for that version of the podcast anymore. And then I did like 2 or 3 or 4 solo episodes. And then Ben came in, but kind of, sort of, he was already kind of seeping in the older version of the podcast, but then, kind of came in a big way for like when we became Superhero Stuff You Should Know. And then it became less about reviews and more about doing unmade script deep dives and things like that. And we've been slowly but surely growing since our reformation.
And been
since Ben came on.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fans regarding the Tim Burton movies, regarding Michael Keaton, as you can kind of see behind me. And we're like, sure. So that was like the first time we kind of tried this format out was around the 30th anniversary of the 89 movie back in 2019, where I was like, hey, let's come on, celebrate the 30th anniversary. I can talk about the many scripts that were written within the 10-year time period that Michael Uslan was trying to get this thing off the ground. And then after we did it, I was like, there's another script for Batman Returns that didn't get made. And then we did that. There's a script before Batman Forever and this whole Schumacher cut thing before the release, the Schumacher cut movement even existed. We talked about that. And so it kind of just became a regular thing. And even though obviously we started running out of 90s Batman stuff, scripts, we always found a way to get back to it. And so we've managed to find a way to continue it because of the fact that we've kept growing. And there's been just so much more stuff about the 90s Batman coming out of the woodwork, and then with the announcement of Keaton coming back in The Flash, it just seemed like it was great timing, as well as the Batman 89 comic. And we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people involved with those movies on our show, whether that's Carl Newman, who was the actual movement double for Michael Keaton in the Batman 89 movie in the suit. He's the one who created the bat turn because you couldn't move your head, as well as Sam Hamm, who wrote the 89 movie, Daniel Waters, who wrote Batman Returns, and Michael Uslan himself, who's the whole reason why we have these Batman movies and arguably why we have the whole superhero movie genre right now, for better or worse. So it's been a great ride, and we're still growing, and we're happy to be kind of crossing over with you on Flash Podcast to continue reaching out to other people too.
Yeah, I see Mind the Gap is in the chat. He's wanted to say, I like to steal Steve Englehart episode and Batman Returns scripts. There's again, guys. There's links to their podcast and where you can subscribe to in the show notes. So go check them out because I'm constantly every Monday I'm always like, oh, what are you gonna drop this week? What are you gonna drop this week? And so on. So it's always fun and exciting. Is there a lost because I'm obsessed with lost media, especially with this genre. Is there a script that you're hoping to one day get a hold of that you want to kind of dive into?
One of those for me would be Batman Unchained, which is the script written during the time of Batman and Robin's production, intended to be, the sequel, intended to be Schumacher's third film, darker film. That's the one that he approached Nicolas Cage to be the Scarecrow on, and was intended to have cameos of the previous villains, including Jack Nicholson's Joker, in there. And it's also one. It was by Mark Protosevich, and it seems like that's like the crown jewel to me on stuff, because it was from a time where I just got into trying to figure out what it was like on the internet to search Batman movie news. All kids my age were using the internet for other reasons, but I was using it in order to find more news about this new, is there another Batman movie coming? And so all the rumors were about what was not known as Batman Unchained at the time, but it was pretty much about Batman Unchained, about it's going to be darker, it's going to have cameos from Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and the fear gas hallucination, all that type of stuff. And apparently it's true, but also apparently only a couple people have read it in the industry. It hasn't leaked. There's some scripts out there claiming to be it, but they're not it. The details don't match up with it. So I'd love to eventually get our hands on that and do an exclusive episode on that, or non-exclusive, depending on how it gets released.
Andrew, is there one that you're hoping to do?
Generally, I learn with the audience, and Ben actually does all the reading, and then I edit the episodes after the fact. So that's kind of how our workflow goes. But there's been some interest in this, in the several Superman Lives drafts and things like that. And those have leaked, though, right? Those are out. Yeah. So you're talking about stuff that hasn't leaked at all.
Yeah, exactly. That has not leaked ever. Exactly. That is a Superman movie that we knew was in the works, but then it never came to fruition, and the script has never come out so far. Because there's especially a lot of scripts for movies now in the 2010s that were almost happening, but just never happened. That has still not made their way online.
Nothing comes to mind at the moment.
Maybe if there was some script because there's a lot of different details on what was written or not written for Henry Cavill's next outing and stuff. Supposedly Stephen Knight had a pitch for Brainiac. I don't know if there's anything more than that, but
that'd be interesting.
Maybe there was some script out there that could be cool too.
Yeah.
I'm
still under lock and key, I think.
Yeah. I think they got to a treatment stage, or something like that. Yeah, I know. Stephen Knight just so people don't think that there's a guy named Stephen Knight, but there's also a guy named Stephen the Knight.
It's a little confusing, yes.
Exactly. No, I thought at first, I'm like, oh my God, Daredevil, Stephen and I wrote the script. They're like, no, Andy, drop the duh. I'm like, Stephen, that's not confusing at all. But no, but I generally want to know what that was going to be about. And also, the more I think about it, I kind of also want to have known what Wonder Woman 3 was going to be. Given how much Gal has been popping up, of oh my God, she's been everywhere in these last few films. They must, they really were pushing for her to be another front face of the DCU, and then never happens. I'm kind of just curious what Patty and whoever was wrote it with her were able to do. So
I think Wonder Woman 84 just kind of bombed way harder than they expected.
Yeah,
it had the rapey vibes in it as well, and I think that kind of tarnished the whole thing with Patty Jenkins, and that probably when they lost Jenkins, they probably lost a lot of momentum.
Yeah, she hasn't talked so much more about it since she made the initial, she broke her silence about the news. She's been kind of quiet about it, so hopefully when she feels ready to talk about it, maybe she can share some details about what. Because I think I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it was supposed to be set in present time this time around.
I would hope so.
Finally.
Yeah, because I'm over period pieces. I'm like, listen, y'all, we got I just want a Wonder Woman movie where she's in the present, maybe she's finally getting it with Batman or whatever. So listen,
Steve Trevor's back again.
Yeah. And he's wearing modern clothes.
And that's why Wonder Woman 3 didn't happen.
Yeah. It's all Chris Pine's fault. No. One day we hopefully we'll find out on your show why that was, So guys, go check them out, subscribe to them, follow them, could recommend them more enough. And I'm excited about it. So we're gonna talk about the Flash movie. It only took us 9 years, y'all. It only took us 9 years, 9 seasons of recordings to finally get to the point where we can actually talk about this Flash movie. So warning for everyone watching, this will be a spoiler-filled discussion. So if you haven't seen it and you don't wish to be spoiled, just go watch the film and come back. The live replay will be up on the channel. We will also have it in audio format. So if you want to stay, you haven't watched it, that's your decision. not ours. So, the sport discussion starts now. So let's just start with overall impressions. Again, this has been a long journey getting to this point. Lots of delays, lots of directors getting, coming on board and leaving, lots of rewrites, a pandemic, F things up. So Ben, let's start with you. Like, what were your overall impressions first seeing the film for the first time?
So basically, to cut to the chase, liked it, didn't love it. I felt lukewarm in it in our non-spoiler review that we released, and I thought, oh, I'm in the minority here. I'm the negative Nancy. And then as the week went further, I'm like, oh, I'm practically a show for Warner Brothers compared to what a lot of Twitter thinks at this point of this movie. So I'd love to see it in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is, like, I feel like there are so many different factors that affected my enjoyment, other people's enjoyment. There's a lot of unavoidable factors here. One being, obviously controversy over the main actor. But even outside of that, there is a whole element of there's so many different cameos, there's so many different things here that in many ways were spoiled or leaked out beforehand. That
who could have seen that coming?
Well, yeah, I could definitely see that coming.
All these screenings.
Yeah, but it was a combination of that plus like the hype of it being just like, we have reviews saying like this is one of the greatest superhero movies ever. This is the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. This belongs in the same conversation as Superman 78 and Batman 89. I'm like, okay, and I feel like I didn't have that hype with like months ago when it was just like, oh, it's just they're doing a Flash movie with Ezra Miller and Michael Keaton. That could be cool. Like that was kind of my general feeling before all this hyperbole started throwing around. And I feel like there's just a lot of that in general, not just with this movie, but just with a lot of superhero movies these days, whether it's really good or really bad hyperbole. It's either people really love it or they really fucking despise it. It feels very rare to be right in the middle sometimes. So I think with this, I'd love to see it in a vacuum away from all that. I think even an upcoming episode, and Andrew flat out tells me I think you're right, Andrew. You basically said like I might just enjoy or have a better time with it a year from now when I'm like a little bit more removed, not like in the middle of the hype train, because it was difficult not to be like, okay, we're really in for something really, really special. And I kind of wish that I didn't go in with that. I kind of wish that I was, that we had been maybe part of those earlier screenings that maybe didn't hear about all that stuff beforehand. So I think that definitely affected expectations and enjoyment. But outside of that, I mean, look, I'm very much right in the middle. It feels like there are parts about this that I really liked and parts about this that I didn't really like that much. And I think when it comes to the Batman sides of things, because I know a lot of our fan base, and clearly, look behind me, is very Batman focused.
You want to just show your shirt?
Yeah, so I'm wearing the 89 Keaton logo on my shirt. But yeah, I think for the most part, the Batman stuff I was happy with, though I had to remind myself as it was going through, this is not a Batman movie, this is a Flash movie. But I admit that some part of me was looking at the clock being like, okay, when's Keaton going to show up? So that was a factor.
Fair enough.
So like from the Batman side of things, I was happy. From the Flash side of things, and I feel like this is even more relevant for your audience than for ours, but I just felt like so many of the beats, I'm like, again, I feel there's another factor here where like I've seen this on the CW show. I've seen like, yes, I do think that their take on Nora managed to be emotional in its own thing, and Maribel Verdú is the unsung hero of this movie, because if that doesn't work, the whole thing doesn't work. And I think she did a great job. I think those scenes did a great job, but I couldn't help but feel like there's an element of like, yeah, but I saw a version of this. I've already seen a version where Barry, in a heartbreaking way, has to say goodbye to his mom again. I've seen some version of this, and it was done in a way where with characters I had a lot more time to be with, who were a lot more fleshed out. And inevitably, given the nature of this being, a 2.5-hour movie with, arguably so many other non-Flash characters in it, it puts the movie at disadvantage already. Not to mention the timing of it being, right after something that was very recent with the stuff. So I think that did affect my enjoyment, even though, like, again, I'm a Batman fan, so you think I'm used to like repeated beats or how many times I get to see, Thomas and Martha Wayne get shot to death. But it's
And
a
then
little different.
pearls.
Them pearls, yeah, and Joe Chill. But like it's I don't know, it just feels different when it is something that seems even more specific. Or with Flash, where like we don't have as many versions of that. So I think that was something that affected mine, but that does not. It's hard for me to really hold that against the movie, but it is a factor I have to say when it comes to my own opinion about it. So it is difficult. Where part of me is like really missing, say, Grant Gustin or again Ezra Miller's stuff outside the movie aside. I just find this version of Barry really annoying, as I've said before on our show. So like that is a factor. And then like music wise, like it's just the Batman theme is there. It's great, obviously. The track "Run" with the piano is great, but outside of that, I'm kind of begging for a more memorable theme song after Danny Elfman's memorable theme in the 1990 show, after Blake Neely's stunning work in the CW show, after Junkie XL's "At the Speed of Force" track. And I just thought that we could be in for like a really cool Flash theme, and I don't remember any of it off of this. And I've actually listened to the score too, and I still can't tell you what it is after it, which is a problem, I think. So overall, like I said, I feel lukewarm, but I'm positively a shill compared to what you've seen out there online. So
No, you're not. Don't worry. No worry. You're not chill. You feel what you feel, and and just for people watching and listening to this home, like it's inevitable that for us who have watched the show for 9 years, that especially because this film is not even out a month after the finale. It's like only 2 weeks after. So, it's gonna be inevitable that we do comparison and we look at. What did they do with the Arrowverse version as opposed to the DCU version? Because again, it is so. I mean, again, that's so recent. So I just hope people understand that, because for me, like I try to put everything with the show by the theater door once I want to go see it, but like it's impossible where like you see like there's some season 2, season 3, season 2, season 1, season 4, season 5, season 6, like it's like things that we've already seen. So. But Andrew, how were your overall first impressions of the film?
Okay, so I stopped watching the CW Flash 6 years ago, so it's like not fresh in my mind, a lot of it. I know there's a lot of beats that are covered, so I think my experience is a little bit different from Ben's in that regard. I was going in very excited to just see Flash stuff, because we've never seen Flash with a movie budget like this before. So and then you have El Mayimbe's Latino review, the rap, Humberto Gonzalez's pinned tweet for months saying it was like in the same conversation as Batman 89 and Superman 78. And it just, like, when you read something like that, it gets you hyped. But, Ben and I were also very skeptical of that, going, like, we would talk about that here and there. So we knew it had, like, the movie had kind of insane buzz. It wasn't just Humberto Gonzalez. It was a lot of people. And so expectations were kind of set pretty high. And I think overall I did like it. I liked it a little bit more than Ben probably, but I didn't love it. I mean, it's just tough, because I feel like if they corrected 2 things, we would have had that could have forgiven kind of everything else. I really didn't want him to move the cans at the end, because it makes it seem like he didn't learn anything. I fucked with not just one person's life, but with several universes full of people's lives because of what I did. I'm supposed to be a hero, and I flipped the can again at the end in the 3rd act to save my dad. Look, he should have saved his dad. His dad wasn't dead. He should have just saved him the old-fashioned way, or they didn't really even have to tee up that like bookend at the end. I felt like he should have just shown up at the arraignment, and then like maybe the thing is they really wanted Clooney to show up. That's the reason. They should have Clooney show up somewhere else, maybe, or something. It feels like they moved the can at the end just to have Clooney show up. So that kind of stuck in my side quite a bit, because if you have the lead guy, I can forgive the character making a mistake. He's not Superman, and Superman makes mistakes too, but he's not a Boy Scout. He makes mistakes. He's thinking about himself, and you want to, I can fine with that for the first part, but then he makes the same mistake again. Like that just drives me fucking crazy. I really didn't like that. Other thing if they fix that, that's number one. And then number two, if Dark Flash had a bigger showcase, if he's like running, let's say instead of showing, the other universes at the end, which I did like, but let's say he's punching them into the spider that Nick Cage Superman is fighting, punching him into George Reeves, a CG version of George Reeves, chasing him through, grabs George Reeves' cape or something, and then punches him into the Jurassic and hits a fucking dinosaur, and then you see an alien George Washington. Like, it gets fucking wild. Like, it becomes really Rick and Morty, punching and chasing through the timelines.
Mhm.
They spent all they blew their load on the Kryptonian fight, which was cool. It was awesome. But Dark Flash needed a fucking showcase, and he didn't get it. And so I feel like we'd be in a different conversation now if I like thinking of what are like the least amount of changes a movie needs in order to save itself. Like, forget all the little stuff here and there. What's the crux of it? And really, it's those two things. For me, you fix those, we have like damn near a classic, in my opinion. And then same beat. Let's say Dark Flash kills himself in the middle of fighting in the Jurassic or whatever. We have the same. He still kills himself, accidental suicide or whatever. We have the same emotional beats. It could still happen. We just needed Dark Flash to do kind of cooler shit. And I wish he had a cooler suit too, but that's a little bit more of a nitpick. But I kind of got negative I got like negative immediately, but I did want to kind of get that out there.
Yeah.
I think Ezra Miller's performances were actually kind of great. A lot of people are annoyed by them, but just seeing two versions of Barry and seeing how well that was done was awesome. I love the humor too. The humor really worked for me mostly. And the Flash action itself with the babies, et cetera, like I was a fan of that. We haven't seen a lot of that kind of action. I could have done with a little bit more of seeing what older Barrys can do, a little bit more showcase of him. Like when he does the cyclone move at the end, I could have taken like bloom, 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 like doing like 20 fucking cyclones,
Oh, that would have been so dope.
Why are you just doing the one? Let's go fucking nuts here. We're in the third act. So that I love Supergirl. She was awesome. Could have had a whole lot more of her. I don't know how they would have done it with the plot that they had, but like she was really good screen presence and kind of down for her to return in the Gunverse. And it's seemingly a lot of people are the same way as me on that one. The mother's incredible, highly emotional scenes, which I loved. Like Tom Segura's podcast, they're not superhero fans that much, but they were like making fun of everybody crying in No Way Home. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That scene was incredible.
I was crying. Yeah.
I know. Like when they're all like hugging at the end, they were like making fun of that. And I was like, did we see the same fucking movie? So what the point is, like, I love emotional superheroes. So Ezra crying in like half the scenes, I kind of like that. I want my heroes, my actors to emote. So I love that, him having to put your hand, your face back into the hand of your mother. Like that's incredible. I just thought that was incredible scene. And what else? Okay, another big topic. This is the last thing before my spiel's over. I just want to make this clear. I am the worst person to talk to about CG. I am absolutely the worst. I do not see it. I am a moron when it comes to CG. I could never be a VFX director. Like, I had to rely on others to tell me the CG was bad in this movie. I'm not trying to be contrarian, and I'm not trying to start shit with anyone. This is literally how I am. However, I will say I did notice it kind of being bad in the Speed Force bubble. The faces are in the Uncanny Valley a lot. But at the same time, it's almost like so bad. It's like, is that the look they're going for? And Muschietti said this recently. Maybe it's just PR bullshit, but he said that like that was on purpose. And maybe it kind of was for the speed bubble. But people are talking about kind of everything, like Supergirl's first fight and stuff. And like in like kind of almost everything but the Kryptonian fights. And like, dude, I'm just telling you now, because we don't know each other too well, Andy B. I'm another Andy B myself, by the way.
Aw.
Yeah, last name's Bush. So
Oh my god, there we go.
yeah. So basically, I'm just not a CG guy. Story beats, other shit I talked about, I can talk about, and like cinematography, I can talk about, but like CG, I'm like, okay, other people said it was bad. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I think the movie's about a 7, maybe 7.5, and I'll give it another compliment. I would see it again. I would definitely see it again, and that's a big compliment for a movie. Like some movies, like Quantum Mania, I never want to see again. You know, but this movie I would definitely see again. So there's that. It's not the best thing in the world, and the Ezra Miller possible Ezra Miller effect on the box office right now is sort of sad, but as it stands, you know, it was okay. It was pretty good. Not the next coming of Jesus in cinema form or whatever. It was good.
Yeah. No, for me, because again, I try to leave as much of the show as possible by the door and just watch it. Like, this is let's pretend there is no Flash TV show. This is the first time I'm seeing a Flash movie, and technically it is. It is the first time we've ever had a Flash movie. So I'm like, but let me pretend that this is the first time I'm seeing these story beats. I don't know where people got the idea from that this was somehow the Dark Knight level type of quality. It was not, but it's definitely better than a lot of other DC films that we've had over the years, because there's been a lot of them, and because for me, I look at this movie as the finale of the DCEU. That I don't know what the hell Aquaman 2 is, but I don't even think Warner Bros. Knows what Aquaman 2 is at this point.
Epilogue.
An epilogue. There we go. It works.
Epilogue.
Because apparently they're doing reshoots again. And I'm like, this is like the third time they're doing it. This can't be good. So, but with that said, leaving also with all the Ezra stuff outside, there are times in this movie where like I do get annoyed by the two berries, but also because I think I saw a little bit of myself in the 18-year-old Barry while my
you were smoking a lot of weed.
Not weed, because where I live it's not legal.
Okay.
But I was like, oh no. This was me. I just didn't have that long hair in a lot of ways. I think this Barry is supposed to be very hyperactive, so I can totally get that. But then there was also a time that I generally did cry at the very end when he says goodbye to Nora. Even though, again, we've seen it so many times already, it was like, I, as a Flash content creator, like, I know what Nora means in this mythology and how painful it is for Barry to have to do the sacrifice again. And the thing is, like, I don't know what is worse, having to agree to Reverse Flash kill her in, like, like we saw in season 3, or him having to be the one to just let her go. I don't know what is more painful, and that to me, like, that really got to me for sure. But again, this film is no masterpiece, but it's definitely a really enjoyable movie where I'm gonna see it again. When it comes to Max, I keep wanting to say HBO Max.
Yeah,
it is such a dumb name. Max, streaming on Max. But
sounds like you're streaming on a person.
Exactly. It's like
to see it on him. Hey, pause the movie with the subtitles on. We're all thinking.
That came out of nowhere, Ben.
Say what we're all thinking.
You know what I'm thinking of? Is that when streaming on like a person, like I'm thinking about like, remember when the Teletubbies aired and like they had these like three. Hey,
Max's stomach opens up.
He's the fifth Teletubby. The Streamy Tubby.
Streamy Tubby. Telestreamies.
So yeah, that's what happened to that.
My brain is like half fried from this week, so forgive me, my audience, for being like, like normally like I would like, but like I'm like so loopy right now. Like, yeah, I'm literally seeing a Teletubby coming, like streaming the Flash on the seeing the falling baby on the stomach. Oh, by the way, that's one of my biggest nitpicks. This film has a weird thing for babies that I'm like, not only do we have that opening scene, again, I think it's cool that he saves them, but it's like, the amount of time that like babies metaphors are used, that I'm like, I will never look at babies the same way ever again. To the point where, like, after I got out of the theater, I saw a mother with like their baby in their stroller, and I'm like, I have to leave.
Trigger warning.
It was such a trigger warning again.
Saw,
And like, I
saw a
think,
microwave. You just saw a random microwave as well.
You know what's freaky? Like, not long, because I was in my theater is connected to like a big supermall or whatever. So a few stores down beneath, like, that's where they actually sell like a lot of like kitchen stuff. And like, I'm like, oh, baby clothes. There's a store where they could theoretically be microwaves. I'm like, I need to leave. I need to leave. This movie made me feel fake that I'm like, I can't look at a baby the same way ever again, because now I'm just gonna see Barry, like, it looks like he's about to run to save the baby, but no, he's going to the vending machine and the burrito, and like I could not stop laughing because I'm like,
It's
I don't know
good.
if it's
I like that.
yeah, this is one of my biggest praise with this film, is that with a budget, they took advantage of Barry's, of Speedster's abilities to do things. Like and the thing is, because I've gotten so used to the show that I'm like, okay, I get it. We can't have Barry do a cyclone to CW because, one, I don't know if Grant would do that like himself, because you can tell it's like he's doing the stunt, they're doing the stunt themselves, but like, there's so much cool stuff to look at. I think anything with the Speed Force and with Barry's powers is 100% the strength of this film. The cameos, I should have just at one point just started pulling up like a game, like in my PlayStation controller, being like, this is like a video game, because the faces look so much like. Okay, so again, guys, we already warned you guys about spoilers, but for example, the Christopher Reeve, Helen Slater cameos, there is no emotions. Like, can you imagine, like, you're seeing worlds about to be destroyed, and all you do is
Right.
oh wow. Do you see that, Kal-El? Yes, Cara Zor-El, I see that. The worlds are exploding. There's a big portal there in the middle. But we're acting as if this happens to us every day. Like, and the thing, like, Helen Slater is alive. Could they not have brought her in and like de-aged her? I mean, I don't know what they did.
Andy, apparently they did. Apparently she and Nick Cage shot stuff for this, and I'm like, well, I can't fucking tell, because it looks like all you did was just took the likenesses and just made some CG cartoon model out of this.
Your flash chair is awesome, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you. It wasn't to show up. That was just me like, I'm
No, I know.
so done.
You're on brand, man. That's for sure.
Yes, thank you. Because last year I got to the point where like all my like old chairs have just started to just break apart. I'm like, I invest into a really good gaming chair, and of course, 10 minutes later, I see ads for Secret Labs, and I'm like, is that a flash chair?
Yeah.
But and the thing is, like, when I think about this movie, is that this movie was partially delayed because of all the amount of VFX work there was to do. But yet there's still added the film. I'm like, this is the finished cut. Like, and with the cameras, and let's get into the cameras, because then I want to get into characters. So maybe this is because Spider-Verse just came out a few weeks ago. Then maybe it's because I'm also looking at what Titan Season 4 did and what The Flash and the Arrowverse has done. But for me, like, I don't feel like this is a love letter to DC. I feel it's a love letter to specific DC fans. We have Adam West as Batman. We have Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater as Superman and Supergirl. We have George Reeves. And I feel like it's a one specific era where but what about the era that has helped celebrate and flesh out the DC multiverse over the last 10 years? It's like, for me, like, I love Andy Muschietti. He's one of my. He's a phenomenal filmmaker, and I'm so excited we can finally say this officially. He's doing Batman: The Brave and the Bold for DC Studios with James Gunn. So I'm excited for him to do that. But for me, like, when he talked about like, oh, we had a list. Anyone with a DC character is fair game, and we couldn't get Grant for anything. We couldn't get Grant. We couldn't get John Wesley Shipp. We couldn't get Kyle Gallner from Smallville. Like, for me, like, I can't buy it. For me, and this could be because this is like conspiracy theory time, Andy. I feel the Flash movie creative team feels threatened by the popularity of Grant Gustin. And I think that's why they were like, we're not going to include the show, because I feel they felt like, oh, Grant's Flash is just going to steal attention away in the spotlight and the thunder from from Ezra's Flash.
I think it's either that or it's movie producer types looking down on Belantiverse, and they see a movie as below them, a movie as above the Belantiverse.
TV, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's probably some
I
sort
kinda
of
see that too.
combination of the two.
I can see it also being a case where Muschietti's hands were tied, or it's like, hey, can we bring in these other people? And the others from higher on up are like, no, you can't do that. And then, like, if you put Muschietti in an interview, what's he going to say? Throw his bosses under the bus? This is like,
Yeah,
well, we
I
were
get that.
denied.
It's not. It's a
that.
damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. But it's like
Yeah.
I would have. It just upsets me where I'm like, because again, we had that amazing moment in Crisis on Infinite Earths when these two Flashes finally got to meet each other. We finally ended this whole idea of movies are better than TV shows, or like vice versa. We finally allowed that we can coexist. And the thing is, people want to see that again. Yes, you know what's great with television about movies? We can just spend more time with these characters. So if movie executives really think that TV is somehow beneath them, then I'm glad I'm not them. I could not. I can't even imagine having to look down on television like that when television has helped elevate these characters for the last 10 years, especially again, and not like we could have had something like Smallville. We could have had. Again, there's so much DC material that could have been honored here, but it feels like it's one specific era. To the point where I'm like, I look at. Do you either of you watch Titans?
I watched the first 3 seasons.
Okay, so
That's
in
all I'll
season
say
4,
about that.
okay, so in season 4 there is a big multiverse episode. I don't want.
I saw the footage of that. I saw the clips.
Yeah,
of that,
that felt like more of a love letter to us, DC fans, because it covers so many eras. We had Smallville, we had Batman 66, we had Shazam, we had Grant Gustin, we had we had Teen Titans Go, for crying out loud. We had Superman the movie. There was so much homage that I feel represented as a true DC fan. The movie, I feel like, is one specific era. It's for that audience, which I'm not judging, but it's like, don't come and go and say again. I get it's for PR purposes, but I felt like you're just celebrating those fans and that era. And I would love to see what this supposed list look like, of like what options they did have. Also, so that everyone knows, no, that was not Teddy Sears as Jay Garrick.
Thank you, because I was going to go into that too. I was like, everyone's like, it's brought in Teddy Sears. I'm like, no, it's just because he looks young.
Yeah,
like, they brought a young Jay Garrick to that, but that wasn't the guy from the CW show, because also that would also make no sense. He's part of the George Reeves universe, but it's also with one of those though. I'm like, how come the only Flash who wasn't Ezra Miller was a CG cameo Jay Garrick that only really we know? It's like a comic
exactly
fan, right?
I think that cool moment with John with his ship could have been in there.
Yeah, like I'm thinking more of like, in addition to what you said about like, hey, it's for a specific DC fan. I'm like, well, also the movie's called The Flash, so from like a dramatic standpoint, when the movie's called The Flash, wouldn't it have been cooler to just see who the Flash is in each different universe, where like that's how you bring in Grant, that's how you bring in John Wesley Shipp. You can even throw in, I pitched this too, like you can throw in Ron Hassey, who's like the first Flash from the Legends of Superhero special.
Yeah.
With the Adam
that
West,
would have been so much fun.
Like it's Adam West, but also archive footage of him from that special, and that's the first Flash.
True.
Because you can see, you recognize this, you can recognize that costume across different ones. You don't have to explain to the audience the same way like with Jay Garrick, where like if you don't notice the lightning bolt is just some dude with a bowl on his head.
Was there a lightning bolt on that suit?
It's everything went so fast I don't even remember. I think there was though.
Yeah,
I think there was. I saw enough that I knew it wasn't Teddy Sears, though everyone else said it was. I'm like, it's not him.
There's just obviously like they just kind of dropped the ball in that scene because they got so caught up in making all those cameos and Easter eggs. They went fucking nuts with it, and they kind of forgot how much better it could be. It felt like, and I told Ben this too on another show coming out soon, other episode. But it feels like they probably did have more with the Dark Flash and less Easter eggs. I bet you anything in like another draft, Hodson has that draft. It's just they just didn't go with it because of budget reasons or whatever, Yeah,
but I do want to say, as nitpicky as I sound there, I do think the visual of all the Earths having a different color, I think that was so beautiful. Because again, it's like it's one thing to just see a bunch of Earth globes and they all look the same, but this looked actually beautiful. Like we had a green planet that is like like little Krypton references, and then we have blue, we have red, whatever, so on. And I do think, yeah, like Dino Guy, this would have been cool. Adam Brody for Justice League Moore would have been a cool cameo because we
Yeah.
know
Or get
those
Nick
suits.
Cage,
Yeah, those suits still exist somewhere.
Mhm.
Dino Guy, I know that Bar Allen died in small season 11, but post Crisis, anything is possible. Again, they could have shown us a clip of Bar from theoretically from season 10.
Yeah.
But okay, but let me ask you this, just more specific, like. What were your favorite cameos that you kind of like just lost your shit over? That you were like, oh my god, I want to GIF it. I want to make it my wallpaper. Like, yeah, Ben, you want to start?
To me, it wasn't any specific character. It was the Joker's bag, the laughing bag in the Batcave. Probably because that was something that wasn't like I already kind of heard about the CG Christopher Reeve and Adam West thing months ago. Nick Cage was like the worst kept secret, thanks to Variety, especially for that. But I wasn't expecting because I was like, yeah, like maybe they'll reference 89 and Returns villains. I think a lot of people were hopeful for Michelle Pfeiffer to show up. I wasn't. I was just like, yeah, like that's a pipe dream. If she shows up, great, I'll love it. But like, I don't think she's showing up in this. But instead, you got young Barry being like, it's a laughing bag, and check it out. And then he does it. It's the same exact sound effect from the end of '89. I loved that. That to me was better than Nick Cage, than George Reed, than any of those cameos.
Better than Nick Cage?
Well, like I don't have a lot of part of it too. With Nick Cage is like I kind of knew it was coming, so it was sort of just a matter of just like, all right, let's see. And a big part of it as well was just because since I had kind of heard that Nick Cage may have shot stuff from it, I was expecting to see Nick Cage. I wasn't expecting to see PS4 version of Nick Cage on there. So like it was a little bit like, oh, so this is what they're doing with it? Even though, like, you would think after a whole movie of the Speed Force looking like that and the other cameos looking like that, I shouldn't have really been surprised that Nick Cage looked like that because he was the last one, of the four CG Supermen in this movie, whether it's Cavill from behind in the volcano and the three others we see in there. You would think the last one, I wouldn't have been surprised. But I was like, hey, like, if he shot stuff, I would have liked to have seen him. And we did and we didn't. So, like, I don't really have any I didn't have any big reactions, I think, to the the character cameos. I had a big reaction to the laughing bag, and that was pretty much it.
How about you, Andrew?
So, I mean, mine's Nick Cage Superman just because I was pretty good about staying away. I had heard rumblings that he might be in there, but it was nothing. I was pretty good about staying away from all the spoilers, confirming it and confirming it and confirming it. I was still in kind of maybe mode by the time I was in the theater. So, and just he's fighting a fucking spider, dude. It's
Yes.
I want to see John Peters. If John Peters has a review on the Blu-ray, best movie of all time,
10 out of 10.
Hyphen John Peters, I might have to buy it just for that. That would be so awesome. But like, dude, I think they had a close-up of him. Keep the close-up practical. And if you have to do CG overlay in your wide shot, I can forgive that, even if the CG is shitty. But if you they don't want to have like a practical face floating in a sea of half-baked CG. So they make a CG overlay of his face. So that's why they do that. It's just for consistency's sake in the frame. But if you have a close-up of the face and the shot's like this, and there's no other real CG around it in that shot, or maybe it's blurred out, you don't have to do that. So yeah, it would have been better served if we at least got like an actual, non-CG shot of Nick Cage there. But other than that, I think that was kind of the best one. I mean, I kind of wasn't expecting like George Reeves and shit to show up. That was crazy. But again, like we would have fixed again. I'm going to harp on this the whole fucking episode. We would have fixed your problems, Andy B, with them just looking at it if they had been punched into them, and then fucking Helen Slater and Chris Reeves do the CG anyway, right? Have them do something. They don't have to talk. Just punch them again, and then he gets like, "Fuck, that hurt." and then they
I would have paid good money to hear Superman say, "Fuck, that hurt."
No, I'm saying Chris
talking about
Reeves punches punches Dark Flash, and Dark Flash, he's kind of super powered, so maybe you can kind of take a punch from a Kryptonian, and then he gets knocked out for a second, but then we're off to the Jurassic again or whatever. Like that scene, even with bad CG, it just would have been. I think it would have been saved that way.
A little more dynamic.
More dynamic, yeah. We just, it kills me because it would have. I've noticed this more and more because Ben and I do, so many script deep dives. So Ben, I feel like I've gotten better at just script analysis in general, doing this podcast for years now.
That's awesome.
And like, it does feel like scripts just lose it in the third act, dude. They just cannot keep it together, man. Just drop the ball before the, what's the sports analogy? Before the fucking clock goes out or whatever the fuck. So, long story short, Nick Cage. What about you?
I am honestly, it's Nick Cage too, because again, I listen, like I love Christopher Reeve Superman so much. Like Christopher Reeve had a huge impact on me, on my life. I mean, heck, I wrote like high school essays about his impact on me as Superman, but also as a figure to society of after what happened to him tragically. But it was it was Nick Cage for me, because that movie we've seen a documentary on it, we've heard the legend and myth about this film, and I actually think Nick Cage, he's the one that looks the most real to me in that cameo. Like again, like it looks like they just de-aged him, but again, there is more of like an expression that he's frustrated, he's smoldering. But with Helen Slater, Christopher Reeve, they're just like, look, giant portal.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm just like, y'all just too chill about it. You guys must be seeing that damn portals all the time.
Yeah, they should have flown towards it at least or something.
Yeah, exactly. They could have popped in their big giant. They could have popped in their heads. Like Barry's giant head popped in. Although that would have been probably freakier because the bad CGI. I will say it was. Yeah, that giant head of Barry's. It was giving me 4 Thunder vibes from that one kid.
From the kid.
I did. Yeah, I did. Like it would have been so easy just having like, President Barry, like behind past
just
Barry,
running.
like, exactly, like just behind looking at it. For me as a Flash fan, I wanted to get excited about the Jay Garrick cameo. But again, it's like, it looks so weird. And for me, I'm like, did he just get Teddy Sears' stunt double or something? Or like, because again, like, yeah, it does look like Teddy, but it is not Teddy. He even had to, the poor guy, he did an IG Live last weekend, and someone was asking about, like, are you in the Flash movie? He's like, I've been asking a lot about this Flash movie. I'm like, guys, I am not in it. And people were like, he's pulling an Andrew Garfield. Oh,
it's not the same situation.
There's no, yeah, exactly. So, but Nick Cage was a lot of fun. And again, like I didn't realize that was Adam West's Batman, because I always thought was like, why do they
like that corner of the he didn't have the big showcase like Christopher Reeve, where suddenly they throw in the John Williams thing. It was just kind of like, you heard him. He's just on a small part of the screen in comparison.
I will say this though, again, I don't know George Reeves, I don't know his family, anything like that, but having heard over the last decades about what this Superman role did to him for his career, his mental health, and supposedly how we lost him. I don't want to call this disrespectful. I feel it's a little tone deaf. Again, even if his family agreed to it, I feel he's the one that should not have happened, because because if this was a role that he was trying to get away from, and the fact this is how we're honoring him, does it make sense what I'm trying to say here?
I mean, it does. I think because I've seen the Twitter discourse on this, and I have a kind of cynical take on it as well. I know people are, there are well-meaning people out there and people who are George Reeves fans, but it also felt like a lot of people were just people who already were disliking this movie and found like another reason to harp more on it and have negative things on it and be like, oh, and it's released on the anniversary of his death. That this was also what sucks. And I'm just like, yeah, Warner Brothers deliberately released this movie on the anniversary of George Reeves' death as an extra fuck you. That's exactly what they did. Like, no, I really don't think so. On that, I do think it would have been cool for me personally. If you're going to throw a tribute, Kirk Allen was the very first Superman. and stuff.
That
So,
would have been cool because I don't know.
What
a lot of
about the
people
guy
know
in
about
the guy in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade? It was the first guy to
that guy
seriously
should
though,
be
first guy to wear the suit in public. Look it
Yeah,
up. It was some
yeah,
guy in the Macy's parade. I forget
yes,
his name,
and he's gonna pull
but
up.
I'm not.
that's
I
the
want to
first.
watch.
That's the first Superman. If we're really talking
His
here.
face. Andrew's face. For those who are listening, his eyes are just wide open on this in terms of what he looks like.
It's a giant.
Pre-serials, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's on a show, so it kind of doesn't count. Kind of, but he was in the. It was probably on TV though. No, maybe it wasn't because it was maybe before even TV. Dude, this is like talking. Some shit. But anyway, yeah, that's a good bit of Superman trivia right there for y'all.
Yeah. But yeah, the part of me again is cynical about like, okay, are these actual well-meaning George Reeves fans, or are these people who just jumped on a bandwagon?
Yeah,
and like looked up.
And
a bunch
I
of
think
shit
it's the
on
latter,
I don't hate
Ben.
it. I don't hate it. I can just see the problem with it. I'm like, oh, I'm super angry, but I definitely feel like I just really hope his family agreed to that somehow, that they had some kind of a say, because if they did this because like, oh, we own, if they did it because like, well, we own the Flash, we can do whatever we want, then I'm like,
no, he must get some sort of royalties, residuals for this movie from here until the end of time, pretty much. So I could see them saying yes to it for doing nothing, just using lending
really
their his likeness.
It is, yeah, like a CG version of the opening of the TV show. I think, like, unlike Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater actually looking at the portal, it came off to me as like it's just a CG recreation of the opening of the 1950s show, from what I remember.
Yeah, I want to bring up this cameo from this cameo. I mean, this comment. This comment from Mind the Gap. If they didn't have cameos, people might have said it was a wasted opportunity, but I think it would have been better off and kept the focus on the story. See, I don't know if I agree with it, because the thing is, the story, like, I felt they did a good work with the story in terms of like, okay, we know where the two bears need to go, we know what it all leads to. I think that having a little bit of a break from this massive showdown was actually kind of rewarding to kind of see, like, let's look at the multiverse for a second, and like, let's see the consequences, because again, that is part of the story. What is Dark Flash doing to the multiverse by continuing to go back in time, and now I will say this, because now I know this Andrew, I know you will have to chime in on, because it's Savitar, but for the big screen. It's Savitar for the big. I'm like, what am I looking at?
Yeah. I bring it up in Monday's episode, where I'm just like, okay, so we're also doing an evil Barry who's scarred underneath in a metal type suit that shows up after a Flashpoint type of event. It's just, instead of 23 episodes, you have 3 minutes.
You have 3 minutes.
Because I thought, like, it's going to be like them versus Dark Flash throughout, and then he's dead.
The thing is, too, design-wise, it's like it's almost there. I like it, but it feels like it's just missing something from the look. Like the toy I almost want to buy of him, but it's kind of plain looking or something. Like you should have had some purples in there or something, like black and purple. Like it was just off. And again, if it wouldn't have been a detour from the story if they were chasing his ass through the goddamn timelines. It would have been. I just cannot. It's just like that should have been the move anyway.
No,
but yes, it's Avatar. It's Avatar, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like because what they could have easily done is that they could have taken in the comic there in the New 52 era, there was the Future Flash storyline where he has like a very blue suit, and like, but they could have made like almost like a darker blue version of that, especially because his lightning is also blue. So Again, I even think about about that suit, and I'm just like, buying a toy of Dark Flash. I'm just gonna be worried, like, am I gonna like accidentally hit hurt my finger by just like touching his pointy fingers?
That too.
Like it was just a little too much for me. But moving on from the cameos, again, lack of Grant Gustin or whatever, I want to talk about Keaton and Sasha Calle as Batman and Supergirl. again, Ben, I know as you talked about it, being a huge Batman fan.
Right.
How was seeing him back on the big screen after? Well, this would be 30 years since Returns,
Over 30
right?
years, yeah. There was a worry going in that this was going to be a feeling of just like it would ruin something, or it'd be like, they shouldn't have brought you back. Kind of like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is kind of a popular example. The latest Terminator movies, popular example of Arnold, and I'm like, just if you don't do that, and it still feels like it honors what he did, then we're in for a good time, and that's exactly how I felt. No, he's not in it that much. But I think for what he does have, he has a good role in it. I think they did a good job in saying like, hey, like it's not going to completely overtake Barry's story. Even though part of me would have loved it, because I vastly prefer Keaton over Miller, but still, like it is called The Flash. So that is a factor there. I know there are people who are just like, oh, they should have just done Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the Thomas Wayne Flashpoint Batman. I think that would have been fine for comic fans. I don't think you would have had nearly the amount of interest from general audiences on a movie that already is struggling in the box office, it sounds like. But like Thomas Wayne just does not have the same impact on like general audiences compared to comic book audiences. Comic book audiences have known for years like Thomas Wayne is Bruce Wayne's father through all the different flashbacks. And so there was an impact where it's just like, oh shit, Flashpoint Batman is Thomas Wayne and he kills people and stuff. And then you can't really do the same on screen because it's just like, well, this Batman kills people. I'm like, when was the last time there was a Batman who didn't kill somebody? It's kind of the sort of the feeling sometimes where we've done the tallies. There are way more Batman adaptations where he kills than ones where he doesn't. So I'm like, it's not really that as much of an established thing to general audiences about the kill thing compared to a comic audience. You still have the same beat of an older Batman who's not the Batman who Barry's familiar with in it. So I think it does work better for here. Though also part of that is my own bias. This might be a hot take. I don't really like Flashpoint Batman anyway.
That's okay.
I just don't think he's really that great of a character. I think
so you can honestly, send your hate ad Ben. I'm kidding.
superhousepodcast@gmail.com. I'll just go right in front of it and be like, here's our email.
It's totally fine.
No,
listen,
better yet, make a comment on our YouTube. We could use the engagement. So yeah, comment away, everyone.
Yeah, send them hate comment. YouTube. I'm just kidding. Don't suspend me. Go on.
But yeah, it was one where I've never been that big of a fan anyway. So I'm just like, look, Jeffrey Dean Morgan would have been great. I'm sure him in like a faithful Flashpoint Batman outfit would have been cool. It's just, would it have been as cool as seeing what we ended up with? No, I don't think so. So I feel like we weren't really
7 years since we even saw him as Tom. So would people even have remembered? Like,
no, they would just be like, "What?" So Negan is playing, not really. But
wait, Sam and Dean's dad from Supernatural is Batman. Why
he's
is
Batman?
he here?
But he's not Bruce Wayne. He's Thomas. Yeah, because remember in BVS when he died in the beginning, like I don't remember that from BVS. Like that's just kind of the conversations that I see happening around that. Whereas like I think with there were some very cynical fans out there being like, well, people are just going to know Keaton as fucking like the Vulture from Spider-Man. And then like the trailer started to come out and like, I don't think people just think of him as Vulture. I think everyone knows Keaton's Batman. So like, that was obviously not a thing. Supergirl, there was just not enough of her. I wish there was more. I wish there felt like more of a showcase of her, like how Wonder Woman had a great showcase in BVS. To the point where I think she just kind of stole the show. Here, she didn't as much because she doesn't have as much to work with. Whether or not she'd be in Woman of Tomorrow, I don't know. But I think it's just kind of too small of a role for me to have much of a comment on. I think she did good with what she had, but there's not much to her in that. So that's kind of my thoughts overall.
And Andrew, what about you?
Okay, so what was the original question again? I kind of got lost in the conversation.
How did you feel about Keaton's Batman? Yeah, and Sasha Calle Supergirl.
Yeah. Oh, real quick. So is it Kaje? Because in Mexican Spanish, I know LL is Y, but outside of Mexico, it is J, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I've heard Kaje, but like if I mispronounce it, I apologize. It's but
so in America, everybody's taught Mexican Spanish, so it's Me llamo, but I have heard Me llamo outside of Mexico. So I don't know. So let us know in the comments or whatever, or in our YouTube or your YouTube, wherever. Anyway, so yeah, I'll just say Sasha for now. But anyway, Keaton Bat. So it was really good. I thought I really had no problem with that. It was just rough seeing him die twice. It's like I never thought I would see Keaton Bat die, let alone fight fucking Kryptonians and shit. But I mean, I had no problem
with the measure tape.
So that shit was hilarious, dude.
Me off. Like he my mother would love this Batman for some reason. Just saying.
I think it's going to be weird to forever relate Keaton Bat to Chicago, the band.
Yes,
now,
that's true.
too. That's what he's listening to when he's making. By the way, I was thinking like that song goes like da 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 da. It's like a little bit similar to his theme song, maybe. I think there might be some musical similarity. So I was wondering. I was thinking that. So it might be kind of an interesting choice there. Funny he's making pasta and shit, but then look, I loved his fight scenes. I thought, like, I think his fight scenes kind of like the best one still maybe is the warehouse with Batfleck, but this might be number 2, man. Like,
I agree.
I agree. Actually, Keaton Bat fights were awesome, and him flipping around and planning. Both. The kitchen room was okay, but like whenever they're saving Supergirl, that fight scene
with this,
that shit.
Oh my god! No! Wait. Let's put this on display. I want to see this. Hold on.
We have the thing.
This. I got this, and I got this.
This oh my god!
Oh.
So I got this, and then I got a utility belt that is over there that I'd have to go get.
Oh my god! This is okay. This is actually pretty badass.
Yeah. So I got this recently.
Can you actually fire the grab hook?
Wait, hold on.
I didn't know that existed. I need to find this.
And then
this is gonna Google it right now.
Tracks. So
that's incredible. I've never seen you shoot that actually. Yeah, I kind of had no problem other than him dying. Really, I mean, I thought they handled it well. And I tell Ben this on our episode coming up. Like, people talk about, like, for example, the Hangovers, like the sequels ruined the original or whatever. Godfather 3 ruins 1 and 2. I'm not that type of person. I don't like, even if this was really bad, I don't think it would have ruined the first the 2 movies that came before it. I really judge movies based like kind of one at a time. So that kind of wasn't a factor for me, but it was great to see it like actually be good. So yeah, I had no problem with that. Loves Sasha, Supergirl. It just seemed like she existed just to die in this movie. I know that's written into the fabric of the plot, but hopefully I would like to see her again in Woman of Tomorrow. We'll see what happens with that. Yeah. Of course, they're not there yet. People are like wondering. Some people are like wondering if there's going to be a Batman cameo from Brave and the Bold. It's like, oh, hold your horses. Like, there's nothing.
Clooney is now the DCU Batman. Yeah, and I'm like, guys, this is a joke ending. It's not like Clooney's definitely going to be the Brave and the Bold. Like, guys, come on. Like, this is not. They would not do that.
Yeah, we have his tooth fucking falling out at the end. Like, this is a joke, obviously a joke. But
yeah,
but yeah, I had no problem with that stuff. I mainly just had the problems with the 2 things that I listed in the beginning. Other than that, pretty much good.
I did just see on Amazon that the grapple launcher is available for only $45. I'm like, listen, I'm an adult. I can waste my money on whatever I want, Mom. So I know what I'm getting.
Right. I'm gonna go get the utility belt. You go, but
he has the full getup.
Maybe Ben is Batman. Ben 1 takes over for Ben Affleck. There you go.
I've never seen him in the same spot.
We haven't seen him in the same spot. Maybe Ben is Batman.
So here we go. This is the replica of the 89 utility belt. Each capsule comes with it. There's a different gadget for each one. It's also magnetic, so you can also attach the batarang to it.
What? I didn't know this part.
What the hell?
That's cool.
Shit. It also comes with a separate grapnel gun So this will not attach to it because they wanted to do one where it detaches into 2 parts, so that you'd be able to put both parts on there. I can go get that one too.
Yeah, if you don't mind, listen, I'm nerding out so hard right now. Where'd you get the belt?
NECA's official store, they have it on there, and I'll go get the grapnel gun so you can see this.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like growing up with Chris, with Michael Keaton as Batman, I mean, of course, it was fun to see him back. Oh, here we go. Let's see.
Okay, so this is the other grapnel gun on here. You can't shoot it because it splits into 2 different parts. So here, this way, because it looks like this in the movie, where like when he goes to retrieve it, it's split into 2, and he puts this together to shoot it when he goes to do the whole like, how much do you weigh with Vicky Vale. So
here. In 2023, we would hear Mike any Batman ad, how much do you weigh?
And then plant bombs on Kryptonians' heads.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, just seeing him, like seeing this more evolved version of him was so cool. Like, for example, like one of my favorite parts. It's a small thing, but I really love it. Is when he has a bulletproof, cape. Like he just turns around and it's just like. I became like a kid again. I love that. And oh, this is a cool. Wait, hold on. Let me do a full shot of this. This is beautiful.
The full setup.
Batman the Brave and the Bold star Ben Wan as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman.
Mm-hmm.
This is all
one
NECA.
more thing. Yeah, this is all NECA. This is also the Batmobile communicator. So this is the one where it comes over and he's just like, stop. So that one also is magnetic.
Wow, this is cool.
So
I did not know about all this.
I wore this to the movie. Andrew knows this because we met up and I was wearing this along with the
that's so sweet.
Quick change Bruce Wayne shirt that I'm known for. So
there you go. But seeing Keaton back as Batman was phenomenal. My only I felt this one was, and maybe it's because he's just gotten older, but I felt Bruce was a little too nice, if that's weird to say. Like he was just like so like open-minded and willing to do things, and also this Batman has clearly learned a lot about the multiverse since Batman Returns. I'm like, what has he been up to? Because I read parts of the 89 comic, which is gorgeous. I love revisiting that world.
Shout out to
but for me, I'm just like, damn, he knows a lot about the multiverse suddenly. Like, again, also, damn, his analogies with spaghetti, like, I got hungry, y'all.
We've so some people have talked. Alex Ramsey, what was the name of his podcast again? Ben?
Flashbacks, the Flash Rewatch podcast. He's in the chat as well. Hey, Alex.
He's in the chat. Okay, I got to shout out to you on this point, Alex. Basically, I talked with him about this too. The multiverse is not something that comic writers came up with. It's something that they ran with. So it's in science. I feel like Bruce Wayne is the type of guy that studies kind of everything. He's had 30 years too. Gotham's been cleaned up. For me, it's not really an issue that he knows about the multiverse, especially in such detail. He's got the internet. He's got some time. He's always been
a library.
They've always kind of portrayed Bruce Wayne as a guy that kind of knows everything. So it's like, it's just not really.
Are you actually kidding me? Sorry for interrupting, but I'm being so rude right now. But Dana guy in the chat says, Animus said there was a deleted scene where they explained that Keaton Batman tried to time travel and save his parents. That's why he's so knowledgeable.
I think Dana guy is pulling your leg.
Yeah, I don't know. We would have to we have to confirm that one, but
I think Dana guy's joking considering how much Muschietti has been going to bat. No pun intended.
They needed to explain to Flash and the audience how the rules work in this movie. So
plus, from a dramatic standpoint, he's got to prove to Barry that, like, hey, I look like I'm 30 years older than you're Bruce Wayne, but I'm still Bruce Wayne. Outside of, from obviously he proved that with the fight, but I mean in terms of the knowledge. Yeah,
parkour. Like I was laughing so hard that he was like flipping around. Again, we know that wasn't. Obviously Keaton doing all those flips, but it was still kind of like, damn, this Batman knows how to move after 30 years.
The long hair was hiding his face too, which was like kind of perfect. Like it was kind of like a tactical reason for them to have long hair so they could hide it, so you could, not see.
But did you
that
need
it's
a
not
bad wig?
Keaton.
Did you need a bad beard though? Because I was like, this is the most ridiculous beard I've seen in film in a very long time. The wig worked for me. The wig worked for me. Although it was just so fun, like how willing he was, just willing to just cut it all off so quickly after being like, nope, pass, not gonna help you. And then you know what? I will help them, but first, makeover.
I will say that is one thing that Flashpoint Batman has over this one, which was motivation. Motivation in the Flashpoint story is Thomas Wayne. The only reason why he's helping Barry the whole time is so that the world can be reset in a world where his son is alive and he's not. And that's very poignant motivation in Flashpoint. And when you have an alternate Bruce, you don't really have anything that's in that realm because it won't make sense to be in that realm. The closest is what they portray in the movie, which is the whole thing of like, well, you were able to bring your parents back, and I know how that pain is like, so I'm going to help you.
It just seemed like he felt bad for Barrett. He was just like, he's like, fine. He's like a reluctant parent, like, fine, I'll take you to the arcade, or fine, I'll let you buy this candy. It's like, for me, like, it doesn't take away anything from his performance, but it's kind of like, if you look at the deepness of it all, you kind of go like, oh, he kind of just went along with it. And also, how funny was it? He was like, I'm only going to drive you to, to Superman, then you're on your own. But yeah, no, he was like kicking all those people's asses, measuring people, their weight, and, and then going with them to the final war. So I'm like, I wonder if there's deleted scene where there is a moment where he's kind of like, why am I doing this? What are my motivations for helping this kid that, he claims that he knows me in another timeline, but I have no recollection of having met him. So why am I helping him? Sasha Carter's Supergirl. There should have been more of her, but what we got with her was so great that I'm like, listen, I'm already on board with her coming back for Supergirl Woman tomorrow. You can just explain it that this could be a car who is in the Gunverse or DCU, whatever you want to call it. She just happens to be Sasha Carter's other doppelganger.
Mm-hmm.
Then
yeah, that's fine. It's a variant. Who cares? We are the multiverse established.
No. Listen, the variant shit is for the MCU crowd. We on the DC squad. We on the DC realm. We do doppelganger.
All right.
You've seen Flash season 2.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
Also because
doppelganger.
I was doppelganger. Also because I just lost my shit in Logan season 1 when they were trying to explain that multiverse is just alternate timelines. No, Marvel, it is alternate Earths. You can have alternate timelines with one universe, but alternate Earth is like a whole different universe altogether. But I'm ranting, so I'm gonna stop that.
I think it depends on the universe too. I think with actual, I haven't really studied that much of the multiverse physics, like the actual multiverse theory, but I'm sure some version of that is alternate timelines are alternate Earths in their own way. So I think it depends on what your set rules are. Go ahead.
I've jackassed my way through many quantum physics documentaries. I've never read a book. But
classes. I'm like, wait, there are classes?
No. But I was interested in the topic because it's like really wacky science that could be theoretically true. But it's an alternate Earth in a completely different universe entirely. Every planet, everything ever is separate. And you connect it via, I don't know, a wormhole, whatever the fuck. I don't even know how they do it. But this is literally in science. The theoretical physics, apparently, look, I'm a layman talking about this stuff. Go look it up after I'm done. But the math works out. It could literally happen. There's possibility that there's literally an infinite amount of universes out there. So, and that's why comic writers went fucking nuts with this shit, because you can have all of the Superman, all the Spider-Man. You can have them all.
Yeah.
We don't have
we
can have every canon ever, and they can connect. So that's just how it goes. So it's been called M theory because it goes from multiverse, mother, or membrane. So they just went with the word M actually. So if you want to look at the science of actual multiverse shit, look up M theory, I guess. So there it is.
Nice. Another thing too, I wanted to add in as well with multiverse, as well as Keaton's Batman. I think it's this is me kind of reading into it and maybe injecting some other versions of the stories into this. But I think some part of it is, Keaton has retired at this point because Gotham City is the safest city in the world, which I know some people had an issue with, but
it was the weirdest thing that I've ever heard Bruce Wayne ever say. It's the safest city in the world.
It is weird,
That's weird,
but
right?
it's also
weird,
what Andrew and I say on Monday is that it's the only scenario I see where Bruce is actually okay being retired. I don't like the versions where he's retired because his body can't handle it, but he's not doing anything, and Gotham City just goes to shit and stuff. Like, no, Bruce, like Kingdom Come shows that even when his body is broken by Bane, he's still got the bat drones going on. He's still got something. So if he is not in that situation and he's retired and he's okay being retired, to me, it's because Gotham is safe, which it is. So I think it's a scenario where like it's safe, but there's still part of him, like Keaton's Batman his Bruce Wayne was never comfortable being Bruce Wayne. He was mainly comfortable in the cape and cowl. So I'm sure there's some part of him, even though he is pretty much like, I'm okay being retired and stuff. There's part of him that probably isn't, And so like the idea that there is like, hey, Gotham is safe, but there's this multiversal thing, this big world-ending thing that could be happening with aliens and shit. Yeah, that's where Batman is needed. In which case, to me, that's why he just immediately jumps on it, because some part of him has been itching to go back. In some way, he just doesn't have the reason to for Gotham, because Gotham's safe because he got the job done. But there's some higher calling here, and that's what brings him in.
He's doing all this because he sees a kid trying to save his parents that died almost in front of him. So like, there's also that connection. I think that sort of works out. He probably just wants to see what the fuck happens. Like, whoa, this Flash shit is nuts.
He was like, I just want to observe. Like, I will pretend that I actually give a shit, but like, I just want to see, what is this kid just like really tripping right now, or it is actually true? And he's like, oh shit, there was an alien locked up in Russia.
If he's a protector type, like a hero type, he probably sees that he needs to be close to this than not close to it too, I think.
Yeah, but like, and also like, I think one weird thing with Sasha and Michael's characters is that we don't get, like, they just, because of all the time travel shenanigans, all the Speed Force stuff, we don't really get like a satisfactory ending with them. Like, they're just suddenly not there anymore. And here's where like that there's been alternate things shot, because in wherever they used in England for Central City, at the end of the film, we see Barry having scenes with Michael Keaton's Batman outside the courthouse, and we also see that's when the first day we saw Supergirl's costume, that she's she's on a wire or whatever, and I'm like, that's not in there. And we will y'all don't worry, we will get to George Clooney, because I am still kind of like, about that. Of course, one of the biggest thing is, of course, that this is a Barry Allen story, and we have two of them in this case. And I know you both kind of alluded to that that either one of them were kind of like annoying. But how did you feel like at the end of this film? Did you feel like that this Barry had grown? Did you feel like did you feel like, if take away?
I'm looking at Matthew's face. I was like, no, not at all.
That's the problem.
Ups and downs. What was the ups and downs with this Barry storyline? If Ben, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, it feels like a problem recently, not just with the Flash, but just in general, where I kind of feel like a lot of the character arcs are sort of tacked on, or not necessarily like woven in, where it's just like, hey, like, we have a character moment and then all this plot and then a character moment too based off of it. I'm just like, it used to be that you would weave this shit into it, because that's how it would work. But it's kind of like Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I thought all of Billy's arc was just an afterthought. It was just like, oh shit, he doesn't have an arc. Let's just throw in these scenes into here. And so if Barry is just like,
let's just kill him.
Yeah. So with Barry,
I'm sorry, done with him. That's the only story I remember from that movie. He just died. Yeah. And it was so chill and brief, and I'm like, y'all, I can't believe died.
I'm done with him. Let him go.
So with this one, it was like, okay, you could see some semblances of that. of like a character arc of him interacting with his past self, and then it feels like, all right, now multiverse shenanigans, Keaton's Batman, Supergirl, Man of Steel flashbacks, and then like, hey, young Barry, like you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this. Like maybe things are not meant to be, fixed like that, which is like a great heartbreaking arc. And then he has a heartbreaking scene with his mom. That's great. But then exactly what Andrew said, he still doesn't really learn, does he? Like he still does like one other thing that messes with the timeline that
I kind of just hope that things will be fine.
Yeah, and so I'm like, like that. It leaves me feeling really conflicted about the end because of the fact that, like, yes, it feels good that he gets his dad free. Like it's the fulfillment of what he's wanting to do his whole life. It has the right emotional beat to it, but at the same time, it's just like, dude, you went through this whole thing because you moved the tomato cans. Now you're going to move the tomato cans again. So it's kind of the first thing that you and I talked about when we got out of the theater. Was like, so the tomato cans. I remember you brought it up. I'm like, I know exactly where he's going with this. Because I thought the same thing.
He looks so disapproving. He's like, He's like, I'm not angry with this movie. I'm just disappointed.
I know you can do better.
Yes,
exactly.
So
I know you can do better.
Did you have more to add to that one, Andrew?
I mean, it's what I said in the beginning. It undermines kind of the whole events of the fucking movie in a sense. Like he doesn't. Your character's supposed to fucking learn something, right? I kind of feel like maybe they thought of it like as too much of a farce or something. Like, how serious should we hold our heroics? I guess I don't know, but I don't want the character to make the same fucking mistake again for nearly the same reasons. Let's save the mom or save the dad. You know what I mean? So it kind of undermines the whole thing. It comes close to ruining it for me. It doesn't ruin it, but it kind of comes close, and it's all for the joke of Clooney. I feel like I just, we don't need him to save his dad at the end. Sorry to say, Dad, but you just show up at the arraignment, and I don't know. Like, I just, maybe the timeline can be fucked up
the same way. Like you can get him free from a different reason. Like I feel like that beat was still there before Clooney, when it was like Keaton and Supergirl coming back.
That could have been a trilogy arc of trying to get him out. Like, it will feel so earned by the time we get, like, let's say if there's been a trilogy, like by the third film he gets out, then it feels like we've been following the progression of this arc. That's why in season 1 and 2, it is so satisfactory when Henry finally does get out, and then the first thing that bastard does is, I'm gonna leave Central City. I lost my shit. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Your son just spent 15 years trying to get your ass out, and you're just like, man, you don't need me. Of course he needs. Why the fuck are you trying to get drowned?
This is basically code for the writers didn't know what to do with that character when he wasn't in prison. I think that's what happened with that.
And then they were like,
shit, we'll kill him off. He's Jay Garrick now.
I think
exactly.
Also, like with the multiverse stuff now, with Across the Spider-Verse and this one, they're sort of equating multiverse timeline stuff with fate and like events having to happen. And I'm not a fucking scientist, but I'm pretty sure there's like no kind of fate in science. There is free will and stuff, but that's a whole other can of worms. but like, so it's just interesting that I know they're doing it for the sake of the movie's plot, but I wonder if it's going to like change the way people think of like actual multiverse theory, and thinking that there has to be certain events in the real world or something. Like, I don't know, there's something weird, maybe as an American sense of freedom or something, where it's just like, I don't know. Personally, I'm not a fatalist. I don't know. I just don't feel like, I don't put too much stock in destiny as a person. So there is a level of that in this movie for me personally, and in Across the Spider-Verse, where I don't super love the idea of events having to happen. I maybe that's the American in me or something. And again, I don't feel too American too much, but like just events having to happen. I would rather have my fucking will change some shit. That's me. Yeah. That's me. But I know they have to like write a movie, and they have to have a plot involving the multiverse. So that's another like kind of a deep thing I thought with this movie, I think. and Spider-Verse.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like, you can look at this is where, like, you can literally use Flash into as an example where, like, we've seen a world where Barry can live with both his parents happy and alive on Earth too. So the fact that it's somehow like, well, it's almost like the movie's trying to say every Barry Allen in the multiverse has to lose Nora. Like, he can't have Nora can't be alive in any timeline or any universe, and that I feel is a scary message to me. And
in the infinite universes, this happens infinity times. Come on,
I'm like, this is why I want to talk to Eddie Muskin and just kind of like pick his brain a little bit. Like, what are your rules? Like, if you had a movie Bible for what your multiverse looks like, it's like, does this mean that every Barry now in the multiverse has to lose his mom in order for the multiverse to keep coexisting? Because there are times where Grant Gustin's Barry Allen has his family with him. So here's what I think when it comes performance-wise. I think Ezra does great. I think the problem here is that by the end, you guys are so right. There are no lessons learned, and I think that. But here's what I'm wondering. I wonder if this was something they did on purpose because they thought we are gonna do a trilogy and we're gonna see the growth of Barry. The problem also for me is that they're using the Justice League version of Barry. But like, it's like he's extremely hyperactive. He's a bit of a mess. I love this. Of course, I'm someone who loves the Snyder Cut. I love that depiction of Barry, who is a little mild mannered. He's a little goofy, but not too goofy to the point where, like, we have this where he actually learns something. But again, the regime of Warner Bros. Were like, we want to support Joss Whedon, not Zack Snyder. So I can't imagine supporting problematic people, but that's up to them.
Well, the Snyder Cut is more canonized than this movie.
Sorry.
There's more references to the Snyder Cut.
What's so funny about it? Like, when he meets Iris, and like, didn't I meet you a few years ago? He's like, no, girl. He didn't just meet you. He saved your ass and had some hot dogs.
Dude,
there's a shot of Aquaman as well in the Speed Force too, where he does the
right,
yeah.
which is also from that specific cut. So there's that, and then I think people have brought up that Bruce references the. I forgot the name of the place where the finale happens with Steppenwolf, but he references that when he's talking about time travel. So it is like canonized, but also the stuff with the Lasso of Truth and Batfleck really felt like Justice League. Like, I tried not to compare.
I thought it was funny first because I'm a huge Wonder Bat shipper of listen, ever since Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck shared the screen together, I have never wanted to see two superheroes fuck as hard as I've been wanting to see them right now. Because that shit is just hard, y'all. When he's like, I said this on the show last night. When he's like, you never met a man like me, or something like that. She's like, you never met a woman like me, Bruce. I can't do that. I'm sorry, but I was like, listen, like, that shit is hard. I would be like, you take her back to the Wayne Mansion, you throw Alfred's ass out the window, and be like, Daddy needs the house for the night.
Well, you don't have to throw Alfred out. He'll be like, oh, so I've got all the beds and the condoms over there. Like, he has it all prepared.
That's a good accent.
Oh, thank you.
Also, it was just so funny seeing Alfred like basically be the Cisco to Flash. Where I'm like, he's multitasking with multiple heroes. Like, hold on, Cyborg, I will get back right to you. Barry, here's what you need to do. Also, I have to talk about this. Iris in this film, I'm like, I had issues with her. I hated the whole idea that, like, I know she was like joking, but also I don't think she really was joking when he was like, are you here asking me as a friend or as a reporter? He's like, of course I'm asking you as a friend, Barry. But my readers would really love to hear your comments. And I'm like, my Iris West would never do that. And I didn't feel a lot of chemistry between them in this one.
It's tough because also, again, like, we've watched 9 seasons of a completely different dynamic. A movie that's 2 hours where their interactions are like 3 minutes total out of the entire screen time is never going to match up. It's just never going to. So it was tough.
Yeah.
And that's something, it is a trivia for people. This is why you need to listen to superhero stuff you should know about. Is on that episode we talked about the script, there is such a big foundation for Iris. That I'm like, how did a movie script from 12 years ago that never even got made nail Iris, never got it produced, but a movie that actually happened has like I think she's in this film for like what 5 minutes. The
Yeah.
only time I
As
believe
I want
in-
to ask you though, as a Flash expert, what makes
Oh,
a
the
good Iris?
expert is a strong word, but I appreciate it. What makes a good Iris is that when a storyteller remembers that Iris is the one that drives Barry. That again, she has so much courage, just not just as a reporter, but also as a human being. That's why I feel it's really important for Iris. Where like, I think she should be a bigger part in this journey in this alternate timeline where like again because that's the thing, that's what's so funny when we meet 18-year-old Barry. I believe that this man is actually in love with Iris the way he's talking about it. He's like, is that my future wife? And I'm like, oh my god, they're foreshadowing their future. And it's like that's why I'm like, okay, I can now believe in this ship. But when it's like when it's DCEU's Barry, I'm like, bro, do you feel anything for her?
Right.
Do you feel anything? So that's why I think
There was no chemistry.
There's no chemistry. But you know what's ironic? When they actually didn't have any dialogue in the Snyder Cut, I believe that chemistry more when they actually had words with each other.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with that.
I don't know if it's Kiersey, if it was a direction, but I'm just like, you guys wasted. There was more Patty. Oh, there was more Patty Spivot in the Flash movie than Iris. When I am, because people who know me, they know I do not like Patty in the Flash season 2, and then if she got more of a role in the Flash movie, I'm like.
And with the worst characterization, I think a worse characterization than season 2.
I think season 2 is worse because they made her a corrupted cop. So that's what
I don't remember the corrupt part. I just remember her.
Yeah, she was trying to kill Weather Wizard when he was like, when she had arrested him and everything. She was basically,
She's trying to kill Weather Wizard. Okay,
exactly.
Well, here she's basically part of the the group that kind of bullies him. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, and also I was like, what's the point of having Albert Desmond? Like is it to set up him to become Dr. Alchemy at some point?
Hey, we do get a Flash villain in this in some way.
We get one.
The great Dr. Alchemy.
Yes,
Dude,
exactly.
Dark Flash wasted so bad, dude. Anyway, yeah.
This part is true. Donaghy says Muschietti said the murder of Barrymore was reversed, and he would have been in the middle of the sequel. And that's the thing. Like, I wish we could have just had a little hint. Because when you think about it, you're upstairs and you're suddenly hear this and you hear, that's all you needed to hear. You didn't see a lightning, just hear something whoosh in through the house and stab her. We just hear that's
yeah. I'm 50-50 on this because on the one hand, I think the whole Reverse Flash thing is a classic. I think it was really well done in the CW verse and stuff, and with this story though. If Henry Allen didn't go get to the tomato cans, does that mean Reverse Flash never would have shown up? Does that mean Reverse Flash is just that terrified of Henry Allen? Like, no, if Henry Allen,
right.
So
that's
Reverse
true.
Flash,
the way this is written, yeah. That's right.
Like,
that's
shit,
right.
Henry Allen's there. I can't go there, Barry.
Yeah. That guy's.
I can't do that. And
so,
my God, that tomatoes played such a big role in this movie. It's like, what if the whole multiverse catastrophe happened was because people could never solve the idea: is there a fruit or is there a vegetable?
Right, but I think I was reading it that they went with the animated movie idea that it was a random home invader, not that it was Reverse Flash. But with Muschietti saying it's Reverse Flash, I'm just like, so why would Reverse Flash? Why would it matter to Reverse Flash that Henry Allen was there?
That's true.
Maybe,
He's just saying
maybe
whatever the fuck.
Muschietti
right now is in full PR mode. I wouldn't fucking
believe
whatever the fuck he
that.
is. The movie is out this weekend.
It's not
dude.
Doing
He's
well.
He's just saying whatever the fuck, dude. Don't take.
Yeah.
He's the director, but don't believe it. We got Gunverse, dude. They're probably not even going to do Barry. They're probably going to do Wally. I bet you anything. They're going to do Wally for the Gunverse.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. Now, an inspiring choice would be Jay. Like if they somehow did Jay,
maybe.
I don't think they will.
Maybe.
But yeah, he's afraid of Henry Allen. Maybe in another timeline, the reason he's afraid of Henry Allen.
It's not original to me, by the way. That's just what I saw on Twitter. I'm just like,
but it's funny though because
right,
what if he's like in the original timeline, he's like, the reason I'm afraid of Henry Allen is because he accidentally trips me when I run into the house. It was something.
It was him
like, he was sitting in the window in the bushes, like, He's in the car. Go now and go. But I feel like-
Alex Ramsey brought that up to me too, and I honestly I hadn't even thought about that because the movie just kind of sidesteps that whole thing, but I think it sidesteps it pretty well because it's all about being non-invasive, not affecting the butterfly effect. So I guess seeing the killer would affect it way too much, like stopping that. So moving just like, the tomato cans is the least invasive way. So it kind of makes sense. And then by the end, he doesn't care anymore because of the events of the movie, and he doesn't want to see his mom die anymore. So I could kind of see him moving on as well. So it's kind of a sidestep of Reverse Flash, but I think those bases are covered pretty well in this regard.
I kind of want to also like see what the movie version of that suit would look like as well. Like I just because I was into this. I will admit the new Flash shoot, it grew on me. It did grow on me. I just wish the only thing they explained. The only thing they need to explain. This is where me as the so-called Flash expert. It's a huge honor, Andrew. Thank you. I don't know if I would call myself an expert, but it's a huge honor. But I'm like, boy has blue lightning. When he puts on the suit, it suddenly becomes yellow.
Well,
that's true.
How does that work?
Muschetti? Bruce. Well, I mean, the prequel comic explains the costume, but not necessarily the lightning change. Because it does explain like Bruce and Alfred create the technology that puts it in the ring, which I like. I feel 50-50 about, because on the one hand, really cool that Batfleck and Jeremy Irons Alfred came up with that. On the other hand, I'm just like, do we really need him that dependent? Do we really need a Spider-Man, Tony Stark type of shit thing in this?
Right.
Even like a Team Flash almost. Right? Like, again, because that's one of the things. There are part of this movie where I love that this movie remembers that Barry Allen is one of the smartest characters in the DC universe. Like it was actually like, and to the people who watch the TV show, who knows how much I love the TV show, just know when I say this, it was a nice change not having 6 other characters just tell him run Barry run or give him technology. It was actually nice.
Yes.
So I know now someone is going to even be like, I listened for you for 10 years, and this is what you do. You turn on the TV show for some movie. But listen, because you know what we could have had? We could have had another Cecile. We could have had another Cecile.
Yeah.
And you're lucky that you dropped off the show, because if you'd gone through the point where Cecile became a bigger character on the show, you'd been like, what is this show called? Is this the Cecile or the Flash?
I already told him a little bit, especially about the finale. But
he told me I kind of left it a good time. Like I saw Savitar. Savitar might have been the last thing I saw, but so, yeah. I did. Is it regarded as the first season's the best? Because that was kind of my takeaway.
Mm-hmm. Right? That's everyone's opinion. Like season 1 is like not just the best season of the Flash, but one of the best first seasons of any superhero TV show.
It was really good. Like the reverse Flash stuff the whole way through, and their third act, their finale, they really nailed it. And then after that, they kind of slowly lose it. I kind of felt like. Did it ever pick up again? Was like season 5 awesome? What would be number 2 if you had to rank?
So I would say season 4 was on a good start, but then because of the whole Andrew Kreisberg thing, like I think that season kind of fell flat. Season 5 is almost where I left the show, where I left the podcast and quit the show. I kid you not. I was so angry with the decision they were doing in season 5. Like the horrible depiction of Nora West Allen as she's this angsty daughter who has all this hatred for her mom and
Cicada. And
both of them drove me insane. But then when they shift shoulders, I would say the start of season 6 is strong because they have blood work. Then we do Crisis, which I think is still like one of the best crossovers of all time. And then the second half of the season, it starts off great, but then because of the pandemic, because we actually lost a couple episodes of season 6, that they then had to go into season 7 to do. And I think actually things got changed in season 7. Because this is the best way to describe it. Because when Eric Walsh took over, he crafted these graphic novels. So I wouldn't even say like if the seasons go up and down. It's more like graphic novels go up and down. So like I can say you can skip the Force storyline, you can skip the Time Sickness storyline, but you can watch Armageddon, you can watch a Deathstorm storyline, you can watch Red Death or Cabal Blue, but like there's other arcs you can't skip.
So so it's pretty much everybody agrees. Season 1, first thing you should watch. If you had to recommend like the second thing you should watch and you were okay with skipping around, what's like the second best thing to watch for the Flash CW? The blood work
Season
stuff
2.
or season 2?
Season 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because I love because when they do that film does multiverse stuff so good.
Yeah.
And again, like look at what they did in their second scene. They already honored John Wesley Shipp's Flash. We even started setting up Supergirl, and
Right,
you know
right,
we had
right.
like they even included footage from the old Jonah Hex movie, y'all. Come on,
That's
it's
right.
like
I
so.
forgot
It's like
about
for me,
that.
like you know, again, like and I would say this, I do enjoy this movie to a lot of extent. It's not a masterpiece. It's not Dark Knight level. It's definitely not Superman 78 or Batman 89. I don't. Also, those films were all made in different times. Those two films didn't have even the same resources that the Flash had. So it's like it's a weird. But I would say that it's like this is definitely better than Shazam 2 and Wonder Woman 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Like it's definitely one of the better DCEU movies. Now in terms of like this, like you know, in a lot of ways, this does feel like a finale because Barry is now stuck in a timeline where he has George Clooney as his Batman. So let's get to that. Why the fuck could we just gotten Christian Bale? Come on, like that would like what George Clooney? Like, there was people, so many people were confused around him. They're like, what the? I heard one person say, "Isn't that the guy from ER?"
It's weird because I feel
If
like
they
ER
know
is older than
ER
Batman and Robin.
If they know ER, why don't they know Batman and Robin? It's the same fucking time. He left the set of ER to go work on that fucking movie. That's
Yeah.
strange. That's strange. They did
Mhm.
they did Clooney because it's a bigger shock and it's a little bit more light. Like Bale's not lighthearted. Like so
It's a bigger
I think
shock to
that's
fans. You know,
bigger shock
it's like
to
the Nicolas
fans.
Cage cameo where like it's cool if you know Nicolas Cage was almost
Yeah.
Superman and the whole giant spider thing, but if you don't, then it's kind of just like, wait, why is is that Nicolas Cage?
I had
in
to
a CG
explain to
form?
my wife as we walked out of the theater, you know, what was going
Mhm.
on with that. She was like, "Was Nick Cage Superman?" And Ben overheard me. I had to kind of
Yeah.
explain the
Yeah.
whole deal there.
I was
Is that
laughing
the
to
guy
myself.
from the National Treasure movies?
Yeah,
But
exactly. That's a whole
okay, so
generation right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I love those
personally,
films.
I'd love to see the fan art of George Clooney as the DCEU Batman in a
Oh,
now
yeah.
rewritten version of BVS and Justice League. I'd love to see it with the
That'd be
beard
incredible.
and all that stuff out of that because it'd be
I have one
hilarious.
question
and
for you.
stuff.
Do you bleed?
Don't
Do you
forget.
have do,
Don't
do
forget
you
this
have
part.
Do
do
you
you have
bleed?
do you have soup do you bleed? Do you have
such a-
super nipples?
Seeing him in the movie, like he did really feel like a pro actor too, though. Like his delivery and it's like 2 lines was like, oh
He had a
yeah, I
presence,
forget
yeah.
Clooney's like a really good actor.
He's a good
That's how I
actor, but
felt.
it's like, yeah, but I'm just like, yeah, I think the bigger shot would have if Christian Bale had been in there because it would resonate with
Yeah.
with more people. But here it's kind of like it's either is that dude from the bad Batman movie, or it would be like, is that the guy from ER? But I would.
But
I think for me,
that's why your Grant Gustin idea would have been better because a whole generation of fans would have liked that more. Like, there's just,
Mhm.
dude, I don't know your age, Andy B, but like,
I'm
we're
almost.
getting
I turned 30 years old this October. Sadly.
you're ancient. I'm
Welcome to the
38,
30s.
so like,
Yeah.
You're
yeah,
not
get-
38.
Yeah,
I
I'm
am.
35.
He's
Wait,
30. So we're
stop. Wait, how old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 35.
Nah, you. I thought you. I did think you guys were like basically the same age, but like possibly even younger than I was. Because I'm like, man, they feel way smarter for I should have been like when I was their age. I should have like done more things when I listened to these podcasts. So yeah, I didn't know. You guys. What I'm trying to say is you guys look great for your age. I do
Oh,
not.
thank you.
I'm sadly balding
No,
up here.
you're-
So
you're looking good. Don't worry
We're
about
good,
it.
man.
oh, thank you.
So, but
Greg,
yeah,
that's
a lot.
the
But original point was a lot of these kids, they don't know who the fucking these people are. So like they don't even know.
Yeah.
They don't know George Clooney Batman. Like it would have been better served if it was somebody that they actually know, like Grant Gustin, for sure. Keep it in the Flash family. You know what's happening here. I mean, I liked it. Was kind of a fun shock, but again, it just kind of felt like they just wanted a shock. They wanted Barry to not learn his lesson so they could shock with Clooney. You know.
My take on this as well, and I bring this up on Monday too, is like I think if anything, they didn't want to tease the audience about a future yet. because that was the original ending. Based off what we saw with the set photos where like Keaton's there, Sasha Kaya, Supergirl's there. Like the original ending, I think sets up a future with okay, it's going to be Barry with Supergirl and Keaton. Possibly.
But you're right, because that was the idea for the Flash 2 from the script that was complete last time.
Yeah, and Keaton was going to be in that Batgirl movie that got canceled, but like it's now like I think setting in Clooney is like, hey, Clooney's not going to actually be headlining the Batman franchise. He's just here. But to me, it was the door is closed. Like Barry is in this universe, and this is the end of the DCEU. I feel like if you bring Bale back, then you bring all these people hyped up about the return of Bale as Batman when that's not really happening either. Like I see what you mean, and I think it would have been cool too. But I can also see the argument that like Clooney's there to be like, no, the door is shut. In terms of this is the end of the DCEU. There's not going to be Justice League co-starring George Clooney as Batman.
Yeah, the bad nipples are not coming back.
So, like, I mean, even if Clooney did come back, which he did for this, the nipples were still not there either. So, I
updated my suit. Don't worry,
my suit
updated. Yeah.
I just think that it's there because they didn't want to hint at anything further off of that, even though some people still think
that was a reshoot. That was part of a reshoot, right?
That for sure is the reshoot. I think some people there's a conspiracy theory that he's like deep faked onto Michael Keaton because Keaton in the set photos is wearing the same exact suit, but I think they just gave the same suit to Clooney.
Yeah, if they're same size, like just go with it. Producing clothes is not cheap sometimes, y'all.
Also, we saw how bad the CG was. You think they were able to pull off Clooney on Keaton's face that well? I don't know.
Only if he was doing this apparently.
Hi, Barry. They couldn't track his face. It was impossible. Our scientists
just shift off.
It proved impossible to our VFX artists.
Yeah. So like I like the current ending. I'd love to see what the original one is or the different variations that they had. But I think having one last shock about who Bruce Wayne was and it being Clooney is kind of just a way to be like, okay, this is the end of it. New Flash is going to be somebody completely different, in my personal opinion, but we'll see. But I think it's like, all right, DCU ends with Clooney as Batman, but like it's the door shut on that. That's my personal opinion. I could be completely wrong. This is just my speculation on that. For all we know, they're going to announce Justice League with George Clooney and Ezra Miller anytime soon. But I don't think. I really doubt it. I really doubt it.
I want Ezra Miller to get all the residuals, all the money from this. But my personal opinion, I need to kind of take a back seat for a while, and they need to recast the Flash because they're rebooting the whole universe anyway.
We'll bring in Wally, because I think
bring in Wally, yeah.
And this thing, people who know me, I'm Barry Allen guy. Like Barry is my Flash. However, after that, it is Wally West, particularly the black version of Wally West that I would like to see. Just also because I do not want like a big white Justice League. I will drive myself insane. Like James, come on, right? Most of the Avengers movies was pretty white already. So, but saying this, no matter what Wally we get, is that I think it's time we tell a new story. Let's this time.
Yeah, definitely.
Let Linda Park actually be in a Flash story with Wally and not just be Barry's side piece. Poor Valerie, poor Linda, it's like damn, he's love interest.
If the Flash is black and Green Lantern is Jon Stewart, then that covers that's a lot of bases covered there with diversity already. That would be cool.
And Linda Park, she's an Asian woman, so you have that. So, but for me, I'm like, I think it's time that we move on from Barry, and that's the as a Barry Allen guy, that's a huge thing to say. Not just because of the whole thing with Ezra Miller. So, again, I'm hoping that they get on a better path. I hope that they will, in 10 years from now, there will be a much better journey. But again, I also think that if you're rebooting DCU, you reboot. That's why I'm like, it's so stupid that Aquaman 2 is coming out at the end of this year. I'm like, Aquaman 2 should have come out at the beginning of this year, then Shazam, then Flash, and then we start a new DC universe with Blue Beetle, which now thankfully confirmed be part of James Gunn's universe. I sobbed this week when that came out. I'm like, I'm so excited. Listen, I was like, they're gonna make it like an Elseworlds movie or something. But then like James is like, yeah, he's the first DCU character. I'm like, yes, because I love
that. Is cool. That is cool.
So, does anyone feel like when we got to the post-credit scene that it was supposed to be longer. Like I felt it just ended very abruptly.
It was stupid. It was.
I thought it was supposed
dumb,
to be good.
Yeah.
You know what, Patty?
Yeah,
I did
it's so
too.
dumb. The best part of that was Aquaman saying "I am home" and like petting the water or whatever, the puddle. Yeah, that was the only good part of that whole thing.
I thought what would have been cool, like let's say it absolutely has to be Barry dragging a drunk Aquaman out, but I'm like, okay, this is stupid, but like, what if we are getting a better idea of what this universe's Justice League is when it comes out and he brings it, and like it is, we get to re-meet, Superman, Wonder Woman, and everybody, but some of them are different, some of them aren't, or something like that. Like it
When the
would at
Carter's
least,
not Wonder Woman.
yeah, like I don't know, but like it's still some version of it where like you get to see what else was reset off of in this universe. That could have been cooler than just drunk ass Aquaman. Aquaman 2 coming in December for anybody who wants to see it is kind of what it felt like. It felt like let's just throw this shit in there to advertise Aquaman 2. Even though it's not really that great of an advertisement for Aquaman 2. Like, I don't think anybody was really hyped up for Aquaman 2 based off of
I've lost
Jason Momoa.
interest at this point. I'm excited to see Black Manta just thrive, but then like we know, I mean, he's obviously not going to survive it because he's going to go play
Wonder Man.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I always think Wonder Man is a DC character because of Wonder Woman.
Right.
So but it's that movie should have come out sooner. But yeah, I feel because there's been all this talk about it. There was supposed to be an ending apparently where Barry somehow gets contact with Batfleck, being like, I'm trapped in another world and so on. And I'm like, I wonder if that was actually in there and they cut it because no, we're ending this universe.
It could be because there also was that stuff about Affleck shooting a scene in Aquaman that originally was supposed to be Keaton, which I don't know if he's getting replaced by Clooney, but I think they're just cutting the Bruce Wayne scene in general. But
Clooney's in Aquaman. Everybody goes.
You know what I would love? I hope there's a photo of the three of them together on set. I don't know if they were there at the same time, but it would be fun if Keaton and Clooney and Affleck, like if there's a that will make the cameo worth it if there's a behind the scenes photo.
Oh, dude,
my god, the exact same suit, all the same suit.
There was this Reddit fan cast movie back in the day when Adam West was alive, where it was like all the Batman around a Comic-Con panel, and then the panel gets taken over by terrorists or something, and all the Batmen have to save the day, but they're playing themselves, the actors, and like Adam West is like being a badass as Adam West. That would have been such an awesome movie. That's the lost media I want. But
I am old Sean.
Yeah, that would have been so.
If that
awesome.
link still exists, I want to see that. I want to see that from Reddit. But that's kind of cool. But no, I would say if I had to give it a score, this film, I'm probably giving it a 7 or a 7.5 maximum. There are issues with this film. Again, I don't like all. It's like The Dark Knight. I'm like, no, it's not the Dark Knight. But it's still an enjoyable movie that I think people should go see when it comes to Max, especially because then you can actually pause and freeze frame and see some of the bad CGI, but also for parts that are also generally fun. Like I actually wanted to get a good close up on the spider, no, not spider, Fingarian snare beast. Right? Do you have to call it a giant spider? Yeah, I'm gonna call it Fingarian snare beast. But I would give it a 7 or 7.5 maximum. Even though I've only seen the film once, I feel that when I've taken everything that we've followed with this movie, and and just in contrast to the TV show one, I feel like there are some original choices which I like. There are some that I'm like, why the fuck has this movie a weird thing for babies? And then there are things that I'm like, I've already seen so much of this already. Ben, what score would you give this?
Around the same. Like I think 7 out of 10 at the highest, really, for me. There's a lot of issues with it. I think maybe I would like exactly what Andrew told, or tells me in the upcoming episode. Like maybe a year from now, I'll enjoy it a lot more. But I think it's one where it's one where there's a lot of issues that I wish weren't there, while at the same time there's a part of me that is still processing the fact this movie even exists, with just the amount of like stuff in there. If you told me as a kid Keaton's going to come back as Batman, and he's going to fight the Kryptonians out of the Superman reboot, and Clooney's also going to show up at one point, and there's a CG version of Nicholas. Like, I'd just be like, wait, what? There's no way. I would just think that I'm basically fucking with myself, but we just saw it. It exists, and there's something
a Flash movie has happened.
A Flash movie has happened, and it has all this other stuff in it. We can debate whether or not it was good, but the fact it even exists is insane. And I think it's at least it's been a journey, obviously, in terms of just trying to get it off the ground and get it into this point. I hope from now on that the Flash stuff is more focused. I kind of hope that they kind of use the Goyer script as a template for a Wally focused thing and just release.
Which is a great episode up on superhero stuff you should know about.
Thank you. Yeah. So it would be the Flash Born to Run or something like that. You basically do that as like the reboot. Just forget about all this other stuff that happened. Make it more focused. The only other heroes in it are other speedsters. Like that type of thing. So like I'd love to see that. Even as somebody who was like who's a Batman fan who got to see arguably like 4 Batmen in this, if we count Adam West CG cameo. I just was like, I wish that I loved this, but I'm just not there with it. I'm just not.
I'm gonna say Des, this is a panel that I would love to see, like at Comic-Con, where like all the screenwriters from all these attempted Flash movies just get together, like, so what happened with yours? They're like, one person didn't like it. What? They didn't like yours too? They said the same thing to me. Like, like an anonymous like meeting for like the Flash screenwriter survivors of being like, yeah, like it's they didn't like mine either. Like they were asking for these things, and like did they ask you about the multiverse? Oh, they wanted to have 6 Batman original in my script. So it's been quite a journey. Andrew, what is your score for the Flash movie?
Well, I'm with you, fellas. I would give it maybe a 7, 7.5. We were all expecting a 9 or a 10, but it just didn't happen. But it's still a fresh tomato at the end of the day. I'm looking at the score now. It went down to 67% by reviewers.
He said
tomatoes again. Yeah, 85% audience score. So, yeah. I mean, I think it's around a 7 out of 10 probably. I wish it was better, but. There it is.
Mm-hmm. There it is. Let's just see some quick comment. I want to see what people have been saying. Minor Gap says, the problem with neglecting Reverse Flash as a murder is that it makes it seem like Barry cannot accept events in his life instead of correcting something. Ooh.
I mean, this movie is about accepting grief, right? And trying to change, having the ability to change events in your life. So I think, I don't know. Let me read that again. The problem with the neglecting Reverse Flash as the murderer is that it makes it seem like Barry cannot accept the events in his life.
Death in itself is a retcon. When it was first introduced, it was a retcon. Like Barry's parents were always alive, and then when Jeff Johns comes in with the Flash Rebirth, not to be confused with DC Rebirth, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But with the Flash Rebirth, then it's just like, well, Thawne went back in time and did this, and it was always weird to me that like. Thawne is able to go back in time and do this, but it causes minimal changes to the rest of the DC universe. But then when Barry resets it and saves his mom, it causes Flashpoint and everything's a disaster, even though his parents were alive in the original timeline. So I don't know.
This is the problem with multiverse stuff. It's so fucking messy, and the science is fucking nuts. So it's maddening, this kind of thing. I mean, yeah, you're exactly right, Ben.
Alex Ramsey says, if it gets a sequel, that is, who knows what Gunn will want to do with the Flash? Yeah, because he would be, because he didn't produce this one, Right. So it's like again, again, even if Andy Muschietti would have certain ideas, maybe James would want to do something different.
Well, I mean, looking at the box office, I don't know what.
Now he's kind of like, no more sequels to this one. I think if this year's ending, we need to let it end. I'm fine with something like Viola Davis coming back as Amanda Waller, like because it won't be the DC EU version. It will be the DC Universe version, obviously, and Peacemaker season 2 will obviously be post. It will be like thanks to the time travel of it all. Yeah. If that season even happens, when knows that will actually happen. Cause says no, Andy Snyder is kind of identified as a dial reference events from Snyder's movie, not Justice League. Okay, well then I need to rewatch the film. It wasn't as a parent. Let's see. Alex also brings up this. I just wanted more Flash in my Flash movie. Like, have Jay Garrick do something I did like in a movie. It's a good movie. There's just some flaw I really didn't like.
Yeah.
Yep, we're there with you, Alex.
Yeah.
Mine Gap says there were Earth 2 Batman stories written by Alan Bernard
yeah.
that he reminded of the autobiography of Bruce Wayne is one.
Yeah. It's a continuity where Bruce is retired, but Robin has kind of taken over as the guardian of Gotham, and Bruce, in his retirement, takes over from Gordon as like the police commissioner. It's kind of a weird continuity.
That is
but
weird.
it is the first time that they really explored like an older retired Batman. I don't see a ton of connections between this one and the Keaton one, but maybe you saw something that I didn't. Mind the gap.
Yeah, I love that. I love that name. I remember the first time I think the first time he came into a chat and I said "Mind the Gap" and "Mind the Gap." He was like, "You can just say "Mind the Gap" once. You don't have to say it twice." I'm like, fair enough. But yes, I agree. They didn't give much to this Iris. It's and if I was because it was such a big deal that she got brought back and this actress got brought back for this movie because I'm like, oh, obviously she's gonna have a big role, but like again. I think she's in this then less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
slightly more than in the Snyder Cut.
Definitely,
slightly more.
But it's more. But the Snyder Cut version is at least more memorable. Of her, like she's driving the car, they're looking at each other. He's in the pet store and he saves her. He eats hot dog. And again, this whole like eating food like while saving people, like it's a consistent. I like that.
Consistent, yeah, it is.
Just. Babies in microwaves and like also I really don't know why did that building even fall apart. What caused that? Like they
that was
said,
the
like,
other thing because like
Oh,
Falcone's son,
right.
blah blah blah, a bunch of exposition, and then I'm just like, wait, so why's the I missed it. So let us know in the comments because everything's going so quickly. Again, similar to Across the Spider-Verse, I just felt like dialogue. I'm like, okay, wait, what again?
Hey
So-
Ben,
Nobody
they
really was
redelivered the audio. There's a newer cut with
Spider-Verse,
newly
yeah.
mastered audio for Spider-Verse.
Oh.
So I wonder if that fixes some of our issues we had with that. But
Well,
Maybe.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys saw what I don't know if you guys saw what I tweeted when I saw Spider-Verse, but like the first like 10 minutes, the audio was like delayed, so like the mouth was not
no.
moving, and I'm like, and for the first 2 minutes, I'm like, am I being
This is
gaslit
style.
right now? I was looking around, I'm like, y'all seeing this? But then
You
like
guys are
nothing is
cool.
happening. But then 6 minutes later, I start hear people like, hey, is the audio delayed?
It took that long.
Hey, their mouths are like I'm just like am I just going insane? And then they came in and they had to reset it, and 30 minutes later we got to see it. It was perfect. But I'm just like, how does it happen?
Yeah.
It's a movie for. It's not like we're watching like a torrented version of it. Like it's yeah. So that's the experience I had. So it seemed like the audio issues was just consistent with that film. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the Flash movie discussion. Only took us 9 years to get to this moment.
Indeed.
Wow.
So I'm sure there will be a future episode where we talk about the Flash podcast. But right now, I think the more focus or the more thing we will speculate about is what is the future for the Flash in James Gunn's DC universe, because you gotta have at least one speedster somewhere.
True.
Whether it's Wally or it's Bart, if it's Jay or who knows. But Andrew and Ben, thank you first of all, thank you so much for coming on. We gotta do this again at some
Thank you.
point.
Yes,
I
yes,
just want to expose Andrew to the latest season of like, let me show you the Chillblaine episode. Let me show you all the stuff that Cecile has done. But let me show you some of the cooler shit too.
This part was good.
This was not.
This one scene was good.
Exactly, like a supercut of all the good stuff.
Exactly.
I definitely want
Yeah.
to see him watch Enter Flash Time in season 4. That's why I wish you would have stuck with season 4, because Enter Flash Time, that's one of the best episodes of all time.
Okay.
That one's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
So, but tell our listeners where they can find you guys on social media, your podcast, and why they should be checking out super stuff you should know about every Monday.
So we have covered a lot when it comes to the Keaton Batman in terms of a lot of the scripts that led up to the 1989 movie, an alternative script for Batman, Returned that was called Batman 2. The original drafts for Batman Forever that was supposed to have Keaton in it. a lot of the analysis on the Batman 89 comic, as well as interviews with people involved with that. So if you're fans of that, you can check it out. We also covered the Superman 3 treatment that was supposed to have Supergirl in it. So Christopher Reeve and a Supergirl sharing the screen together. That's something that we saw. And we also covered the return of Clooney, or the potential return of Clooney in different varieties with a potential Batman 5. So if you're interested in all those types of things of what could have been with that, then check us out at Superhero Stuff You Should Know on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. And then we're mostly on on social media as Superhero Stuff Pod. I think on Twitter, though, we are Superhouse Pod, because I don't think we can change our Twitter handle. So I
legacy name.
Yeah, the legacy name, Superhouse Pod.
I like that name. It's a catchy name. Superhouse.
Superhouse Pod. Yeah, so that was the original name, but now we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, or Superhero Stuff Pod on Instagram, as well as
Facebook.
I think on Facebook we're Superhouse Podcast. We got to figure that. We got to figure this out.
Yeah.
We focused more on Instagram and Twitter lately, but yeah.
So we are there, and then for Andrew and me personally, you can follow some of my stuff at benwanwriter.com, including a short story I recently published called Shortcut to Happily Ever After, which involves time travel, like The Flash, mixed with modern dating. So check out that short story, and then I'll have some updates as well on an upcoming comic book I'm working on, as well as some audio dramas related to Keaton Batman on the channel Newverse Creative. And then
Look
Andrew,
at you.
Thank you. Andrew, I know you have your project too.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's hear about it.
yes, thank you, Ben. So R-rated Power Rangers meets Stranger Things. That's the pitch for Metal Force. Please go to metalforce.ninja. That is our URL. www.metalforce.ninja. Upcoming Kickstarter project. It's like that's the quickest pitch I can make is it's Power Rangers meets Stranger Things. It's a heavy metal band that gets abducted by aliens, and there's a lot of X-Files in there too, and then they get the suits and all that, and then things happen. Don't want to give away too much, but yeah, that's my other project I'm directing, and I thought of the story, but there's another screenwriter, Susie Clay Hartman, and so yeah, Metal Force is my main thing. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Thunderwolf Drew. Thunderwolfdrew.com is my portfolio website if you want to check that out too. But mainly, I'd like to direct you to the Metal Force page. So metalforce.ninja. And I think that's it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. God, you guys look what talented friends I've made, you all. Go check out their stuff, support their work, go check out their podcast. It is lots of fun, and again, like I said, we will make this happen again in the future. There has to be more Flash scripts to receive.
There's a lot.
Warner Brothers.
There's a lot. Yeah, I was going through your episode with Craig on like all the different Flash projects. I'm like, we covered maybe 4 out of 20. It feels like out of what's out there. So
yeah, that was a fun one just to research, because I'm like, I'm more curious about like the TV shows that never happened, that unlimited powers. I'm like, a 45-year-old Barry who was in prison.
I'd love to look at the unlimited powers. It wouldn't have worked in '89, but like I could see it hit with an audience now, even though like it's not really the time either.
Like a Todd Phillips, else for or
even just
Barry,
a Watchmen type of thing, but with DC characters type of thing. So like I'd love to at least read the pilot just to see like, okay, what crazy ass thing is this, especially with like the more obscure characters like Dr. Occult and
and what the hell was that?
Yeah, I mean, I've read a summary of it where it is kind of like the villains are Icicle and Selena Kyle, and it's about supervillains being in charge of politics and how Flash is going to like get the band back together to fight, these old villains who are now behind the scenes and stuff. So I'm like, that's pretty cool, but I don't think the audience was not ready for it in 1989, and I just don't think you just don't have the effects budget for that on a TV show when you already it was already stretching it as it was just to do The Flash in 1990 with John Wesley Shipp without the supervillains for a good half of that, for a season. So I just, they were ahead of their times for sure on that one.
Definitely. And for listeners, you can find me at Andrew Bagged everywhere on social media. I'm also a senior writer at Screen Rant. I run Multiverse of Color, and what the hell else do I do? See, this is why I need the podcast every week, because I forget my own blood. Just check my bio, you will find all my. So I also do Endless Multiverse on Fridays on JRX channel. But yeah, that's gonna be it for a little while. Again, this podcast is continuing. I think just that right up we have all of us have a lot of busy schedules right now, but also again it's just we kind of just want to see like what the breathing space is gonna be for DC, like what is because I feel like after Comic-Con we will know more about the direction of DC studios and whatnot, but yeah, until then, you guys can go listen to all of our interviews that we did from season 9. I'm still trying to work on some more things. Even though the show is over. See, I just don't know how to let it go. I just don't go back in time and change tomato shelves.
Tomato cans. Yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that all he had to do was just just get his face to look up. I'm like, damn, that's interesting. But yes, once again, Ben and Andrew, thank you for coming on. You're always more welcome to come back, and we will make it happen for sure. And to our listeners for tuning in live on a Saturday, we appreciate it so much. You can find all the ways to subscribe to the Flash Plug in the show notes, because I need to rework our plugs clip, because that's more relevant to like when we would do like episode discussions. So there's been a lot of changes with our plugs over the last 2 seasons, because either we have kept losing shows on our network because CW was just like, nah, we're gonna do reality shows down the CW, F-Boy Island and shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because of the strike too. They only have reality this season. The strike's affecting the TV season.
I think even beforehand, and if anything, the strike just solidified it.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we solidify with the short salutations for the writers. But again, it's like as long as the strike is going on, and now a potential SAG strike too.
More than likely, that's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they like what, like 98% of that guild, they voted in favor of a authorization of the strike. So it's those streets are going to get there's going to be a lot more people out on those streets outside those studios, so for sure. But yeah, we will be back at some point this summer. But once again, for Tatiana, for Breeze and Lazy, I'm Andy B. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Flash Podcast. Have a good one, everyone.